Good morning here at the Quaker City Motorsports Park here in Salem, Ohio for the Stars Championship Series, round number 3 here for the drivers. Qualifying getting set for the semi-pro guys, but first, before we do that, warm-ups underway. Emery, yesterday we were here for the first round of practice for all the drivers, qualifying for the pro guys yesterday. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked all day yesterday about the importance of putting on a good lap. This is a track that we know is going to be a little bit difficult to overtake, and so far in qualifying on the pro side, we saw, I'd say, a little bit more mistakes than we're used to from top guys. I mean, we saw obviously some messy qualifyings in both OKN and OKN-J, and then obviously in pro shifter some impeding issues, a couple of ruined laps. But I think as a whole, this track has ended up being really nice and a lot of fun to drive for a lot of these drivers. I find it very bumpy, but so far 3 qualifying sessions. We got 6 before we get into the semi-pro sessions, and I'm excited to see what comes on today.
Well, I think for me the biggest standout was, I mean, when you look at a track like this, which most drivers have not been to, most drivers have not driven on at all. You've seen the videos maybe here and there, but it's different when you actually go out there and drive it. 2, the brand new Rhino liner thrown on the racetrack earlier on in the week, I think might have thrown some drivers for a loop. Maybe if you had been here before, it's a completely different racetrack nowadays. And for yesterday, usually we speak about track evolution, right? When you go to a racetrack that we're more comfortable with, 1, the track evolution is more predictable, and 2, you get a good read on it. But I think when the track progresses, along with the driver's progression of the racetrack and getting used to it, that's when you get that kind of exponential curve of lap time. So today it's going to be the day, I think, where you get the biggest read on the track progression.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially what we saw yesterday, I mean, upwards of 8/10 of track evolution in the shifter category from practice 1 to qualifying. A lot of that's going to be drivers finding their eye for the track, it being a new circuit for a lot of these guys. But also, I mean, naturally, it's a track that has a lot of grip. And, you know, when people came in and tested a week ago, there wasn't as much Rhino liner, like you mentioned. And that plays a role in what you think you can get away with, how you gear the kart, and kind of what you're expecting when it comes lap after lap. And so for these guys in the semi-pro categories, they'll have had a full night now to look over the data from final practice. None of the classes have grids set off of practice. So in that sense, it's not quite as important this weekend as other weekends. And I think as well as that, you're seeing that the more laps they get around the track, the easier it is to at least replicate. You know, we talked yesterday the challenges of off-camber corners, of a lot of the elevation changes on the circuit, and obviously the Rhino liner that we talked about a lot. But putting them together, you know, once you get a bit of a rhythm down and you go through this minute lap or 1:05 in the semi-pro categories, it looks like it kind of makes it to where you can run a consistent session, because these guys have only gotten 20, 21 laps total this weekend for the semi-pro categories. So the more laps they get, the more comfortable they get, the better they're going to be when it comes to putting down laps. But in qualifying, all that matters is putting down the 1 lap. And I mean, we've seen some burners. We've seen a lot closer field spreads this in practice 4 yesterday compared to practice 1. So I think we're getting into the tightest part of the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a pretty close practice 4 there for the KA Masters guys. Chris Horan topped the board yesterday afternoon. Bonanno's in there, Andy Kutcher. Those have been the 3 fastest guys all weekend here in KA Masters. But the biggest thing, right, is Chris Horan, again, tops the board this morning in warm-up. So that's back-to-back sessions from afternoon into the morning. So that's probably a pretty good feeling if you're Chris Horan, knowing that your kart's good late day, your kart's good in the morning as well. And who knows, obviously, what drivers are going out there setup-wise, tire-wise for the warm-up session. But biggest thing I noticed out there, Emery, was we heard it from the KA juniors and KA seniors, you know, is the draft important? Is the draft not important? Well, I didn't really see anybody going out there and going for a tow in the KA Masters class. Obviously, there's not as many drivers out there. You have more of the luxury to give yourself that gap if you want it. But usually in the KA class, you kind of opt for that slight lazy tow, even pushing the guy if need be. So I'll be really curious to see the strategies that we see as the morning warm-ups go on. Do the juniors, do the seniors go out there and look for that push, or do they want to kind of go out there and see what they can do by themselves?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see for sure. We talked to 2 Ryan Perry Motorsports teammates yesterday on air, and 2 of them gave us completely different answers. Nate Golseth opting for saying that he was going to need to find the tow. Max Weiland as well kind of mentioned it to me. But on the flip side, Davin Roberts saying, you know, for a KA race, this track really does not have much tow in it. So to me, I think the strategies are going to be wildly different. We've seen guys like Oliver Hodgson and Alan Issenbord all practice long, kind of running more by themselves, opting for a more conservative approach to getting a draft. Those guys, I think, are going to do the same thing in qualifying. But in both the Swift packages, we see Micro Swift getting set to go out right now, and in the KA categories, you know, if you're willing to maybe take a risk of getting caught in traffic to find that last 10th or 2 in the draft, which will still play a part. There's still multiple straightaways on this track that will have a draft effect. I think that could be the difference between qualifying on pole and having a good qualifying, but maybe not all outright best.
Here's my thing, right? To me, what it tells me, if you're a driver that says you don't need a tow, you're probably feeling pretty quick. I think if you're a driver that's saying, listen, the tow's still important, I'm going to need it, it kind of tells me you might be missing a tenth or two from what I've noticed so far, right? And so, again, you mentioned it. To me, if you're in the micro, if you're in the mini swim class, no matter what, whether you're quick or not, the tow is always going to be important. The lower the horsepower, the more the tow's a factor. But the one thing that I couldn't really get a great read on yesterday, because as certain drivers got used to the track faster than others, is how important that draft actually is. Because I think this racetrack, again, the straightaways are long enough. We heard Jordan Mustard say it yesterday. This track is a lot of mid to high speed corners, a lot of roll speed. Is that going to play a factor in the higher speed stuff? Is maybe dirty air going to play a factor? Do you want that tow, and do you want to risk the dirty air? It's obviously not a big factor in the cadet style chassis, even the KA class, but as you get to the high speed, high grip, do you get that dirty air?
Yeah, it's certainly something, and of course for the pro guys too, they're not going to have to go out on new tires again until the main event. So that's a little bit of a different conundrum for them, which is where I think the dirty air really takes place. But even then still, we talked about it yesterday, you get in traffic here, it's not just about losing the time behind them in theory, it's losing the rhythm and kind of running the pace. And it's something that you see with a new track, and it's something you see with a really technical track, that it takes time to kind of build that confidence to be able to go right back to running your own line. So that's an important factor as well with traffic, and in my opinion even more so than just the dirty air effect that we probably won't see too much of on the cadet side of things. The other thing too that I found really interesting in some of our post-practice discussions with drivers was how difficult it was to find areas that they were comfortable passing in. Even the last corner is what a lot of people point to as being the easiest passing zone on the track, because you have a deep braking zone, you have the chance to just send it into there, but it's still sketchy. And the longer corners, the ones like the back end sweeper, all of those corners you can get turned down on, and there's almost no braking zone in the slower categories. So where you're normally able to find that opportunity to make a pass under braking or a pass mid-corner, now you're getting the door shut on you, or you're having to sacrifice tenths of a second per lap to make that pass. So I think in traffic, in a qualifying session where you only get 5 minutes, you only get sort of 4 to 5 laps, you're really not able to afford sitting behind guys like that. So again, track placement, being able to race your way forward, even in a qualifying session, and get a clean bit of track is going to be very important. And I mean, by the sounds of it, from what we talked to some guys after practice, this is very hard to find an area that's both easy to pass in and comfortable to pass in.
You talked about it, right? This is one of the few times throughout a year where drivers get to go out there and kind of pick their spot in qualifying. I think it's going to be important to show up to the grid earlier than usual and make sure that you kind of feel like you're where you want to be, right? We saw a lot of team, sort of work in Micro Swift class. We saw the Bennecks go out together yesterday. We saw the Sodis go out together. We saw the J. Howard development drivers go out together. We saw it in Mini Swift as well. So I think in the cadet classes, it's more optimal. That leads to the point we spoke about yesterday a little bit, Emery, which was how much of an advantage is it to have a lot of drivers under one team in the same class? It's quite a bit, right? You look at BJR, you look at MDR, they got a pretty large contingent in the KA Junior, KA Senior side. You look at the likes of even RPN, they have a couple drivers in the KA Junior side of things as well, and KA Senior. So those guys, I want to say, have a slight advantage when you go out there on the racetrack. That being said, it also is good for setup, right? If you go out there, you have 3 practices. If the pro guys yesterday, 4. If you're in the semi-pros, you can kind of throw a couple things at different go-karts, see what sticks, see what doesn't. That being said, you look at a class like OKN Stars, you look at BJR, they kind of missed it a little bit on the setup, I'd say, in that qualifying session. Overbeck, Massimino were pretty quick throughout the 3 practices. Qualifying caught them off guard. That being said, I think we saw something pretty interesting from James Overbeck, and we'll touch on it more when the pro guys go out there a little bit later on. But that right rear for James Overbeck, for those who didn't get the chance to see it because it wasn't shown on air, Emery and I walked the paddock last night, kind of got to talk to a couple drivers, Overbeck being one of them, and I asked him, what happened in qualifying? Because this is the driver that enters the weekend leading the points in OKN Stars, and that right rear was gone. I have not seen a tire, I don't think, 5 laps into a cycle that has looked the way that tire looked. The rest of the 3 tires, left front, left rear, looked great. The right rear looked overused and on the end of what's capable of that tire. So to me, that's could be a couple things, Emery, right? Could be completely missed setup. Could be just, unfortunate that one tire just wasn't, the same, maybe not working as well as the other three. Could be also the track surface. Who knows? The run liner could play effect. Could just show you how much they're using that right rear around this racetrack as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is a track you would consider to have high degradation, just looking at the layout and the amount of sort of torque you're putting on those right side tires, particularly the right rear tire in the higher power category. So it makes sense that there's that kind of wear. For it to be after 5 laps, I would say like something had to have gone wrong, either setup wise or possibly, I mean, we always hate to talk about this, but there is the potential, bad set of tires, bad singular tire. I'm not saying that's a common issue, not saying that's what happened, but it is possible because that was, I would say, an outlier amount of wear. And compared to the other guys we saw, I mean, it's obvious that this is going to be a tire deg heavy track, but not to that degree. And, that would have completely compromised his qualifying. He was able to get a replacement for the races, so it's not the end of the world on his point. He can move forward this weekend, but it's a bit of a concern for the other guys under the tent now that will have seen that tire wear and realize if you're in a semi-pro class, after this qualifying session, you're not getting new tires the rest of the weekend. You're going to have to run probably upwards of 30 laps on those tires at this track, which if they're falling apart after 5 laps, not a good sign, even though it's different tire compound, different power blends.
Okay, well, on that same note, you've driven a lot of racetracks that have a lot of high deg situations like this. What is the approach? Say the tire degradation is high, and we're going to get a pretty good read on it after qualifying later on this morning for the semi-pro guys, if it's the same as what it is for the pro guys. What do you do driving style-wise? What do you do setup-wise? Is there anything you could do to kind of combat it and make it easier for yourself come Sunday?
Yeah, I think there's a couple sides of it, both on the driver's side and the setup side. So the first thing on the driver's side, we talked about it yesterday, being smooth with the hands is so important here. If you're trying to save tires as well, it becomes even more important. You want to keep as little over-aggressive maneuvers as possible. I think what we see out of guys sometimes is they're in the faster categories, they're too aggressive on the throttle. Not as much of an issue in the KA or the Swift packages. So throttle control and hand motion will keep it from sliding too much, and that saves the tires, especially the rear tire in the case of James Overbeck that got absolutely destroyed. So on the driving side, being smooth, being patient on the gas, and also limiting the sliding in general is a good way to go about it. On the setup side, there's a couple of things you can do. You can kind of take out some camber if you're trying to adjust the front wear, and then also, as well as that, you can give yourself a setup that maybe has a little bit more grip, which will make you, as we talked about yesterday, maybe a little bit slower, but limiting the sliding, limiting the natural overheating. It's kind of goes against what you would inherently think. You think about a free go-kart, a fast go-kart, a kart that kind of stays springy the whole run, but if you're sliding the kart too much, you're overheating the tires fall for the course of the run, and the heat in these MG Reds in particular is something that I think really has a big impact. I think at this kind of track where you're constantly working the tires, you have to run a low pressure, you have to run them kind of conservatively in some sense to keep the temperature down a little bit. That's going to play a big factor as well, because if you're recognizing that the tire's overheating, you have to go low on tire pressure, and that's going to obviously maybe make you a little slower at the beginning of the race, but at the end of the run helps you out significantly. So pressures, I think there's kind of the trick on the front end of maybe taking out a little bit of camber, adjusting the caster some as well, and then as well as that, lowering the tire pressure. All of those can help a driver that maybe is sliding a little bit too much and overusing the tires, as we've seen so far this weekend.
One class that I'd be surprised to see some tire deg in, or at least a lot of, is the Microswift class out there on the racetrack. And as the times continue to tick down, 10 seconds left here in the warm-up session, so final laps will count for these young stars, and it's Slate Harrell on the board, the driver that leads the points heading into the weekend. He has a 10th on the rest of the field. Brody Stoffel, Mason Brody, your top 3. You go back to the likes of Lennox Lockhart, who walks into this weekend P2 in the championship fight. 1.3 off here this morning in the warm-up session, P9. It's a couple of things you can note, right? Because I was looking at the different strategies we saw from the young kids. I think draft's going to be important here. Slate Harrell was behind Brody Stoffel the entire time, getting a great tow. Back to Lennox Lockhart, he was by himself the whole session. Dutch Westbrook decided to go by himself, leading the train out of the grid here. So again, deferring strategies. I think the best one was what Slate did, which was roll out third in line and get that nice, good tow behind 2 separate drivers. We call it the lazy tow for a couple reasons, right? The lazy tow operates in 2 different ways. You can time it to where you start the lap maybe 7, 8 kart lengths behind. You start the lap with a small tow. You end the lap maybe 2 to 3 kart lengths behind, so you still don't get caught up in the mid corner. You don't risk catching them with 2 corners to go. and you get a pretty good tow heading onto that front straightaway, or you do what Slate Harrell did, start the lap maybe 5 kart lengths behind, but behind a guy who's getting a lazy tow off the guy in front of him, you get the double tow. So that's, I think, the biggest benefit you can have in any class, especially Micro Swift. But that being said, warm-up's done for Micro Swift. Take a quick commercial break. When we come back, the pro Rok Masters go out there on the surface.
All the way up to the finish line. Who is it going to be? It's Sean Perez who wins in Crescent.
Ty Fisher wins $1,000 in KA100 Junior.
How about John Bird for TV Kart USA on home soil? They take the win in Amarillo.
Amarillo Kart Complex is now the official distributor for TV Kart in the continental U.S. Become a dealer today.
Champions aren't just born on the kart track. At SimShop, we deliver professional-grade simulators with the best performance-to-price ratio in the industry. Founded by racers who understand what you need, our SimMagic and Moza equipment is powerful enough for the pros, yet affordable for everyone. With unmatched customer support and a thriving community, we're your racing partner. Visit simshop.com today.
Are you ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
Welcome back here to the Quaker City Motorsports Park here in Salem, Ohio. The Pro Masters are out there on this racetrack right now, and again, it's all been Jordan Musser throughout the year here in the championship fight. He's been super quick all year long. A couple drivers have been fast as well, though, we can note as the session goes. I think the biggest thing that we're going to learn here in the Pro Masters is good indicator of what we can expect for the pro shifter guys. Obviously, we saw the Pro Stars yesterday go out there, their 3 practices, their qualifying session, and the likes of AJ Myers made a really good point to us, right? Because I know Simon Sykes interviewed him yesterday. You know, what was the decision to kind of pull in 3 laps in after qualifying, right? Well, the biggest decision was that was the window of the tire, and I think I was surprised to see AJ and Bowman be the only guys to do 3 laps. I know Bujdoso, their teammate, did 6 full laps, and most of the rest of the crew, the Burrell Arts, went out there and did 5. Some did 6, like Morgado. So differing strategies. But again, if tire dag is as hard and as bad as we think it's going to be, Emery, if we look at the OKN Stars, I'll be curious to see how the tire kind of evolves for the pro master guys and the Pro Stars guys.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you still have, 3 full heat cycles on them before you go into the final. So, like, we're going to see the pro motos being long and kind of drawn out. You're going to see, I think, more degradation here than any other track that we've seen on the Stars calendar this year, and most other tracks that we see on any calendar as well. So it's one of those things where they're going to have to take note of the degradation they saw during practice 2, as well as even from the 5 option qualifying. One thing that I noticed was really interesting was Mateus Morgado tried a cool lap and then one last push lap. It's something that we see every once in a while out of drivers on the shifter side of things, where they'll take a lap to kind of cool the tires, sort of regenerate it a little bit, and then give it one last push to see what happened. It didn't work on Mateus's, and he was slower on his last attempt. But for the semi-pro guys as well as for the pro guys later this afternoon, when you're looking at sort of race pace and whatnot, you can't cool the tires. You have to understand, what's the window of the kart working at its best. For the shifter guys, that was lap 3 or 4, or lap 3 really. I think when we get into KA qualifying and other qualifyings, that might be closer to the end of the session, just off of lower horsepower. You're not putting as much heat into the tires every single corner. A little bit of a harder compound as well. Those things all factor in, but I think on the shifter side, I mean, like you mentioned, you get into 3 sessions deep into the day, you're having to run Moto 2 on used tires that have probably seen much better days. It's going to be tough. I think the guys like Jordan Musser that are so smooth behind the wheel helps him out a lot. I mean, you watch him come through the corner, and his hand motion here is just so much less. It's less fighty than any of the other karts that he's racing against. You look at Jake Fetter behind him, a couple of the other guys coming in as well, and they're having to really fight the go-kart on entry to the corners, especially the faster ones, on this kind of last down section of the track where you're all the way at the bottom. This is the flattest the track is, and to me, it's the most equal that you really get to see kind of take out the driver skill in terms of adapting to the downhill right sections, the off-camber corners. How good is the go-kart? And I think Jordan Musser has that for all.
If you opt for the lower entry speed, higher minimum speed in the middle of the corner, I think it's a little more predictable, a little bit kinder to the front tires, and that's kind of the goal, especially what we're seeing with the tire deck.
Yeah, when I was racing around a track like Shawano in Wisconsin, it was really important not to overdrive the entry to the corners. We were trying to save tires. That was the last time for me that I felt extreme tire degradation. Other tracks like Speed Sports has some high tire degradation, but it's not unbearable. One thing that I noticed with Jordan Musser that is really interesting is he drives the corner almost like you would drive a single speed, which it's well documented. You have to drive a shifter a lot different than a single speed because you have the front brakes, because you can gain so much time on entry, and because naturally the gearbox allows you to slow down and rotate significantly faster. You can get away with really bombing the inside of the corners a lot more, whereas the Musser on this lap and with the way this track is formulated, this is probably as close to a single speed line and a single speed braking point as you'll see at any track we go to outside of maybe like a K1 circuit out in California. So it's fascinating to watch. I think some guys are maybe struggling to get used to that approach of having to kind of carry the roll speed even in a shifter category.
Yeah, I'm watching the next group go by here, and again, Jordan Musser's been the only guy that I've seen for the final section of the racetrack that's opted for more of the arcing line, the wider radius line, like you said, the single speed line. What it does is a couple of things. It allows for less usage of the steering wheel, number one. Number two, it allows for more minimum roll speed. Number three, he's kinder to those front tires. He had by far the largest coast period that I heard through the final couple of corners compared to other drivers, which is kind of going in deep into the corner, banging the gears down, and using it for the rotation, where Jordan Musser is slowing the kart down early, rotating the kart in the middle, and carrying that minimum speed, which actually means a slightly larger coast period, which in go-karting, sometimes you've heard drivers like Norberg even mention it on some of his YouTube videos, where it's like, you never really want to coast too much in go-karting. If you're coasting, it means you're probably braking too early or getting on the gas too late, and in a shifter, it kind of is the same thing, but around some of these corners, I'm noticing a slightly larger coast period, braking early, rolling the speed in, trusting the grip's going to be there, and what that means, Emery, as well is, heat 2 later on in the day, even towards tomorrow, his tires are going to be in a better situation than a lot of the guys around him.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we can get a pretty good view here of the tires as they come into the scale line. I want to go and check kind of what drivers we're seeing having the best wears. You see Matt Machico go in, Luis Quinones right behind him. Here comes a little factory kart machines. You got the 517, that's Brad Denoff coming in. All of these guys, I mean, you can tell that this track is physically very demanding. Here's Hugh Templeman on the rear, and the left rear tire of Templeman, I mean, you can just see rear tire degradation is a massive thing on the shifter categories. I would not be surprised if over the course of 3 sessions today, we're seeing upwards of half a second fall off. So keeping the tires in the right range, in the right window is going to be very critical. And again, looking down the list, if you can see anyone's tires here that you think looks to be in better shape, Alex, is there anyone that stands out to you?
They all look fairly similar. I think a lot of the guys here have similar driving styles enough. I think the one thing that I'd be curious to see is the tire deg for the field compared to what maybe Jordan Musser's is be just because of the line differential, but they all look a lot better than maybe what we would even expect around this place. I'd be curious to hear from some of these guys maybe after the scale line if they felt like the tires are going to be sort of an issue towards the end of the day. I'll be curious because, again, everything's new for us, right? This is one of those instances, I mentioned it yesterday, one of those few occurrences where none of us here at Kart Chase have actually been to this racetrack and driven here. So again, the kind of the track knowledge is the same as everybody here driving. We're learning with them. And so that's one of those situations where I'm curious to see what the drivers feel like the track's going to do, what the tires are going to do. That's the biggest unknown. That's what's so fun about this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you're seeing a lot of mechanics coming to the skill line, talking to the drivers. This will, of course, be the last session of the week, other than tomorrow's warm-up, that they can do that. Because after qualifying, obviously, scale line is an official session. You have to stay away from your driver until they cross the scales. So, you know, this is still in the data gathering process. You know, we've only had 5 sessions on the racetrack altogether. So, as a whole, I mean, you're still learning a lot of it. I think we'll continue to see the field get closer to Jordan Musser as the sessions go on. And man, I'm looking at kind of everyone in that master shifter category. They're all trying to take notes. They're all trying to figure things out. Again, it's a different track for them. They have to take it a little bit untraditionally, and I think it will be interesting to see how the race unfolds as we get through the rest of the weekend. And now we got KA Junior on the track, Alex, and one of the most competitive categories yesterday. A lot of talk about kind of running both categories. We saw OKN-J qualifying yesterday. John Antonino put in a burner but got a penalty after the session for avoidable contact. He'll be hoping to avoid that when he qualifies later for KA Junior to put it on pole legitimately on this one.
Well, I'll be looking for a couple of things here in this class, right? For one, we heard Golseth say, I'm going to need a tow. We've heard some drivers, like Malquit, like Travis Pettit I spoke to, that they don't feel like they need a tow, but they're also arguably the 2 quickest guys here in this class. I think another thing to mention, you kind of touched on it a little bit, is how physical this track is. You and I kind of walked up to Jared Clark at the end of the day, and he said, I just asked him straight up, I said, you know, how are we feeling? He goes, dude, I am beat. He was exhausted. He's not the only one. Most of the drivers that I spoke to that are running, even just one class, like Jared Clark, done. The drivers that are running 2 in certain cases, like John Antonino, for example, I mean, I know he's maybe a driver that's a little bit understated, right? You go up to Antonino, you ask him how he's doing, he said, oh, I'm chilling, I'm doing good. Deep down, this is a physical racetrack. No matter how good of a shape you're in, I feel like this is a track, as much as any that we've been to this year, that's going to be tough on the drivers to last throughout the weekend. We're only into Saturday morning, remember?
Yeah, we still have the brunt of the weekend. You know, these guys, one thing that's interesting about Stars weekends that I think a lot of people maybe don't recognize is when you're racing Moto 1, Moto 2, pre-final and final, each race session is longer than any practice that you get. And specifically the pre-final and the final on Sunday, you get in almost twice as much racing time as any practice session. They get at Newcastle, we never got more than 5 laps of practice at any point. You go out for the final and you're racing 15 laps, that's 3 times the distance. There'll be a similar distance here, I think an extra lap or 2. So for these guys that are used to racing 5, maybe 6 laps, to go out there and do 15 to 17 consecutive laps on Sunday is a massive challenge. And there's an element of unknown on the fitness side, element of unknown on the kart side as well. But for drivers that are already struggling to hang on to their bodies and kind of keep themselves in proper shape for the weekend, it's only going to get more difficult as the weekend progresses.
Well, let's talk about a couple of drivers here. Nate Dupuy tops the board right now. We're still got 3 minutes left in this warm-up session, but you can't forget, for a driver that seemingly has been quick throughout the entire year, there's been instances where he's had a chance to go out there and win, maybe made a mistake himself or got into a bad situation. Nonetheless, got a major win last weekend for the CKNA Summer Nationals over at MCC, and so looking for similar results here this weekend, obviously on a different side of things, on the KA side. And so for Nate Dogg, he's been quick. Gabriel Balog's been a driver that's been pretty fast all weekend long here, Emory. Antonino obviously quick. Landon Boer goes to P2. We're watching the entire MPG crew here go past us through turns 10, 11, and 12, and they're working together. So I think it kind of highlights what we're referring to. Do you want to go out there and find a draft? Do you not? If you're MPG, they opted for the simple strategy. All you guys go out together, toe off each other, we can learn that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And also along those lines, you have to trust your team as well. Trust that there's not going to be too many stragglers within the group, and it's worked out for them perfectly. It reminds me a lot of what they did last year at MCC. I think they were able to kind of work well together, lock out the front row. If I remember correctly, they had 4 of the top 10 at one point that weekend. So it's not a new strategy. MPG have been very good at working together, but now Travis Pettit putting in an absolute burner, 105.1. It's about as quick as we've seen from the junior category all weekend long. And I really think, Pettit's a guy that's had a lot of confidence. By the looks of it, it looks like he's gone out all by himself as well. So I think this is one of those things, Pettit, just searching to continue the momentum that he's had over the course of the year. I mean, he's got a lot of pace aboard that speed concepts machine, and he's shown it so far this weekend. Like we said yesterday, he said he liked the track, and he's proving it. A track that a lot of people have been kind of downbeat on, at least on the driving side. He has continued to show kind of the form that he's had all year long.
I think Parker Ives might put together a pretty good lap here. He's got a really solid toe off the MPG crew up front here, and Ives has been a driver that's been pretty quick. I mean, as he crossed the line here, Parker Ives actually doesn't improve, I don't think, on his lap there when he crossed the line, but for the 848, that's a driver that, again, made his X30 debut at Road America for the United States Pro Kart Series. He's a driver that's made his KA Junior starts throughout the year, and for a driver that we've talked about yesterday, 65 pounds lead on the go-kart. Most of the junior field has maybe a max of 10, 15, 20 at most. Parker Ives, a driver that's on the smaller end, on the smaller scale of the junior field, and has padding all around the seats just to lift him up, kind of maybe cushion some of the load that the kart's going to give him. He's a driver that's gotten better and better on that junior package.
100%. And also with that too, he's moving up from cadet. He's having to get used to a completely different size go-kart with way more weight on it than I think anyone will likely ever driven on around him. So it's a lot to get used to. It's a huge learning curve. And for Parker, I mean, I think maybe he got a little bit overboard on the first weekend that he ran in X30 Junior at Road America. But on the KA side of things, he's shown good pace at Stars so far this year. The results haven't necessarily shown it out. In Newcastle, he kind of got caught up in traffic, got in a couple incidents in the final. In Charlotte, he was running roughly around the outside part of the top 10. But collectively, I think Parker Ives has put together a pretty solid kind of hybrid mini junior season. And again, it's all learning for him. He's not really in the points championship for any of the three major series, but as his teammate Jaden Francisco on the Nitro kart gets ready to run in Mini Swift, I think for Parker, moving up to this junior category this year, maybe a year early, has done wonders for his confidence and wonders to show what he can do as a driver on the full-size packages. Checkered flag out on the KA Junior warm-up. Looks like Isaac Malkuit and Travis Pettit, two guys that have worked well together all year.
Unreal.
1 and 2, exact same time. That suggests to me they've probably been working together on track, because I think they're together at this point from what I can see well from the distance. They're 1 and 2. Nathan Dupuis, Nate Dogg up to P3. Isaac Payne in 6th on the last lap at the checkers. A solid run for the young driver who just switched teams to host driver development. So a lot of new names at the front, but the same two pacing the field in Isaac Malkuit and Travis Pettit.
Those two have gone out together in every single practice session, and those are the two drivers that I've spoken to out of all the KA juniors that when I asked them, how are you feeling this weekend, they were really, really confident. And when you're fast, you're confident. Malkuit and Pettit have been trading 1-2 all weekend long. They do it again here in the warm-up session. KA juniors rolling into the scale line. Mini Swift when we come back.
Let's go race.
Come on, man.
Florida kart racers, you asked for it and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLKC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
Welcome back here to the Stars Championship Series, round number 3 at Quaker City Motorsports Park. Mini Swift on the racetrack. KA Seniors rolling on to the grid, Emery, and I think I'd love to go and talk to a couple of these drivers here, because obviously we didn't get to hear from them after their final practice. I'd love to hear kind of where their head's at into this morning, maybe what the track felt like throughout the day. A couple of things I think we can learn from these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a big class. I'm sure there's differing opinions all up and down the grid. A lot of guys yesterday kind of taking a little time to get into it. We saw Oliver Hodgson be absolutely rapid. Mick Gabriel put together a good session to finish 4th in the last session as well. Alan Issenbord, you're running. Let's go grab Oliver Hodgson, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid. Again, really good day yesterday, fast in every single session. Ollie, we're live on air here. You know, it's a new track for everyone. New experience yesterday. You got 4 sessions. Where's your head at coming into the day?
Yeah, it was enjoyable going to a new track, actually. You know, you probably heard a lot of people talking about bumps and rhino patches, and I don't find that it's too bumpy, and I like the rhino patches because it's added an element that's, I'd say, tricky. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to going racing on a new track is where my head's at.
Yeah, 2 years ago when we raced at Pittsburgh for round 3 of Stars, you were really quick that weekend as well on the Rhino liner. How different is this place compared to that track, knowing, you know, the similarities they have? I mean, A, the location less than an hour away, and B, you know, the amount of Rhino liner, the amount of kind of different patches they have on the track. How do you compare this track to something like that?
Yeah, so I guess the behavior on the Rhino liner is similar, but this track is much fast. It's by far much quicker. You really don't slow down a lot, where pit race, you have a lot of slowing down tight corners, so they vary in that respect. Almost the flow of the change of elevation is similar, so it's kind of a 50-50 split of similarities, but yeah, very different kind of difference in the speed trace and how we slow the kart down. Here's a lot of just speed up the whole way around the lap.
Yeah, and last question here. I mean, yesterday we saw you kind of lead the comp kart contingent around a little bit, or like at least you guys went out together pretty much every session. We talked to a lot of guys up and down the grid, had very different takes on whether or not it's quicker to be in a draft or whether or not you're better off just kind of going for clean air here. What's your take on that? And are you planning to kind of work with your teammates in qualifying, or kind of go out and sort of set a lap by yourself?
I think there's so much variability. Like, obviously, if it all lays down in the correct way to work with my teammates, for sure. But, you know, I think that it is quicker if you have the perfect trap position behind someone. But, you know, it takes one corner to mess that up. So it's probably safer, easier to get a good lap on your own.
And it kind of really hasn't done anything. So we're taking a shot in the dark this morning to see what happens.
How, in comparison to other racetracks we've been to, how important is this qualifying session coming up soon?
I think it's really important because you can't pass anywhere here. I mean, there's 1 or 2 passing opportunities, but you really got to send it. So I think quality's pretty big here.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
I think kind of highlights our point there, Emery, a little bit, where qualifying's going to be important. And for a driver that's, again, rolled off first in every single practice so far this weekend, I mean, he brings a good point, right? In practice, there really isn't much of a point to go out there in the group, get a better feel for how you are by yourself. And he said it best, right? When you have 40 drivers on the same racetrack at one time, kind of sharing the same surface, you're going to find somebody. The problem is, if you time it wrong, we have seen it kind of bite people in terms of just getting stuck on the wrong parts of the racetrack.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it comes down to what's your goal with this? You know, if you're a driver that knows you have pace, an Issenbord or an Oliver Hodgson, you kind of just trust that, you know, you can go out and set the pace. You'll be fine as long as you don't catch traffic. So for those guys, the equation's maybe a little bit different. I look at some of the guys that are around an Issenbord and an Oliver Hodgson, and I see them kind of gearing up. You can tell a lot as to what a driver's strategy is by where they line up on the grid. Ibrahim Din here starting at the front of the grip as well. Another guy I think had a good day yesterday, kind of looking towards clean air. But one thing I want to note is the 2 Ryan Ferry Motorsports carts right behind him. Yesterday we saw them kind of focus on going out with the comp kart guys, leaving themselves a pretty big gap. Today though, they've opted to move all the way at the front of the grid for warm-up. Both Davin Roberts and Lucas Zabo going out right near Quinn Angeli and Alan Issenbord. So those guys have clearly decided they want the clean air. They want to be up there with the 2 Rocket Racing Company guys that were inside the top 10 all day yesterday. So differing strategies. On the flip side, all the way at the back of the grid is Jared Clark, who has kind of flipped his approach from yesterday a little bit. So everyone kind of going for different strategies here. I think this is the last session you get before qualifying, and with no split group, with the opportunity to kind of qualify at your own volition, I think it creates a situation where you want to get a good feel for who you want to run through, for who you want to run with in qualifying here in warm-up before things get too serious.
Yeah, but I think that, again, I think that just re-highlights what Isambard was talking about, right? If you go out there and you can't find your teammate, you can't, maybe you're late to the grid, you just don't have the spot that you would have liked, you're going to find somebody, right? And I think part of that is timing it all, and that's where these drivers kind of earn the big bucks, I guess you could say, right? When you go out there, obviously warm-up coming up and then qualifying later on this morning, where even if you time it, again, it's just one of the situations where you got to time it right on the racetrack, even if you get late to the grid. But I think it goes back to kind of the benefit of what they do here at Stars Championship Series, where you can just roll up to the grid and kind of pick where you want to go out. And that's why you're seeing a lot of the teams work together. BJR go out together. The two comp karts, Hodgson, Biscaglia, who's the driver that I think we need to highlight a lot more this weekend, is Chase Biscaglia. Super quick at Charlotte. You mentioned it. Arguably the quickest driver on raw pace in Newcastle. And then you have the Rocket Racing Company guys going out 1-2 here to start warm-up.
Yeah, and again, as well, the flip side of it as well, you see Enzo and Montana all the way to the back of the grid. Slade does not have a teammate for him. So for Enzo, you know, you have to kind of pick your own battles. Find who you trust on the track to be very fast. It's something I think maybe partially induced by being late to the grid in Enzo's case, as well as in Andrew Hamill's case. Those are two guys that were both quick yesterday. I think will have some good pace today, but they're going to have to find their way through some traffic in the session or just create a big gap for themselves. So getting set to roll here, we'll see how the gaps play themselves out. Again, a lot of guys at the front look eager to go right away. I think you'll see Biscaglia and Hodgson kind of hold back a little bit like we saw them do yesterday, and like they've really been doing all year long. And right off the bat, front of the grid all goes. Hodgson with a small gap. I think the first driver to leave a gap of more than a second anywhere is going to be all the way at the back of the grid with Andrew Hamill and Enzo Vimontienne, both of them opting to wait about 5 to 10 seconds here. As you can see them just leaving the grid now. There goes Vimontienne, there goes Hamill. They're going to have clean racetrack at least for the first couple of laps, but even then, still not enough of a gap, I would say, to keep them clean for the whole session.
It's been a strong start to the weekend for Andrew Hamill. He's been consistently inside the top 5, top 10 this weekend, and again, this is the first time that I've seen the 905 go out there and opt for this sort of strategy. Yesterday, he was kind of in the mid to front end of the group, getting a little bit of a tow. This time, I think, like you said, partly maybe because he got late to the grid, and partly because you kind of want to see where you stack up by yourself. He's going to have a bit of a tow with Enzo Vimontienne, but those two decided to go by themselves. That being said, to Isambard's point, it seems like no matter what, no matter how large of a gap you lead, you're going to find somebody. Someone's going to find you. Again, it's a large enough racetrack, but when you put 40 out there at one time, you're going to tend to find somebody out there.
Yeah, certainly. And, I mean, we saw that already with the gap approach, too. In the case of, like, Chase Biscaglia and Oliver Hodgson, they have 10, 15 go-karts going behind them and another couple in front of them that want to kind of wait up for them. So it's so hard to find that clean lap. But as we watch the early parts of the session, I mean, if you don't get the approach right for warm-up, you're kind of shooting blind a little bit for qualifying. And again, a guy like Hodgson, a guy like Biscaglia, a guy like Isambard, they have the pace, I would say, to kind of offset any sort of issues they might have with track positioning. But someone that's kind of in the upper midfield, you know, the difference between a good qualifying lap and a bad qualifying lap could be the difference between putting yourself in that group in 3rd or 4th position on the grid, and subsequently maybe qualifying down in 25th, and suddenly your whole weekend is completely compromised. So it's absolutely critical that these guys time out the laps. I'm interested to see the early returns on this session.
I got to say, you look in the, far back end of the racetrack, and it's just clouds of smoke being thrown up in the air, and that's something that I want to touch on, right? We saw it throughout the qualifying sessions and the pro guys, especially in the pro stars. It was really evident. The amount of dust, the amount of rocks being put onto the racetrack by drivers making mistakes. And these are unforced errors, maybe uncharacteristic errors for drivers that are not used to this racetrack, not used to the surface, maybe struggling with the bumps, like Isambard said. But with that, anytime you throw dirt on the racetrack, the next couple of guys that go through there, it's a different grip level than what it was the lap prior. We saw it in the Pro Stars class when Irwin went off the racetrack. He hit a bunch of dust on his outlap, so cold tires combined with some dust on the racetrack, it put him offline. We saw it with Mateus Morgado on his last flying lap. Hit a bunch of rocks, got big understeer in turn 8, had to back out of the lap. I think that's going to be a huge factor this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so far this session, we've seen multiple drivers going off track early on in the session. One thing to note as well, Enzo Vimontienne, I think, might have adjusted his approach a little bit because he is way back there compared to where Andrew Hamill is. I don't know if he issue or what's going on with the number 950 SLA machine, but he has run himself completely clear. So either he's got a massive issue with pulling in, or he's decided to completely wait up and kind of ensure that he has space. Not sure what's going on with Enzo.
Vidmontien's actually flying right now. So Andrew Hamill's the one that backed out of it. Vidmontien has caught up. He actually caught up around Jared Clark. Jared Clark opted for the back off and let everybody go strategy. I think he was a little bit late to the grid, didn't get to go out with the entire BJR crew, and so let the rest of the field go. Vidmontien has put his right foot down. He's flying right now at the moment. Andrew Hamill's opted for the back off, let everybody go sort of strategy. It still's kind of hurt him a little bit. He's caught a couple of drivers, but up front, I think top four are working together pretty well. The Rocket Racing Company guys are working pretty well. Differing strategies at the moment here.
Strategies, and again, I think both of them can work depending on what you do. Hamill, a guy that yesterday we saw go out by himself at the front of the field a lot, so he's comfortable clearly leaving himself a ability drive faster. Other guys, Alan Isenbard and Jelly, they're also other guys, the two RPMs we saw on the grid. David Baker, another guy that's had a good session so far. Jared Clark choosing to wait up for Vidmontien. Those guys kind of opting for a more aggressive strategy to find the draft. So there's two ways to go about it. I've personally always been a fan of, if there's a draft available, I want to try to get it, because I want to try to get as much of an advantage to myself as possible. So those things are all going to take place. I think qualifying, maybe guys will be a little bit more aggressive hunting the draft than what we've seen so far in this session. But again, ultimately, this is very much a driver's track. You know, you see the technicality of it, you see the physicality of it, both playing in, and this is going to be probably the easiest session for them all weekend from a physicality standpoint. It's a short warm-up, no new tires, no absolute pushing, and for Alan Isenbard, I mean, he's been out up front kind of creating his own hole in 3.5 tenths on the field, and the other guys around him are all working together. Oliver Hutchin, Chase Muscalia, Hudson Brown, Henry Taylor, all four of them in that Comcourt plus Hudson Brown train. So for Isenbard to put 3.5 tenths on by himself is very ominous for the rest of the weekend.
Well, it's interesting because this morning is more comparable to what we saw in practice one in terms of the field spread that I've seen throughout multiple classes, right? I mean, K.A. Jr., for example, Malquit Pettit, identical lap times to the thousandths, right? You have to go back to the 10,000ths to see a slightly different lap time for them, right? But here in K.A. Senior, this is a huge field spread for a class that is so close. One of the most stacked K.A. Senior fields that we have on all the national calendars, right? I mean, we have 40 guys out there, but it's, I'd say, the first half of the field can go out there and win it on any given day. And so for at the moment on lap 5 for Isenbard to be 4 tenths almost clear of the field, it doesn't, bode well for the rest of the field, I guess, going into qualifying. But as the last couple laps tick down, 40 seconds left here in our warm-up session, it's a pretty tight field from second on back. You go to Biscaglia, Brown, Taylor, 7 tenths back if you're in 5th. Let's see a couple of drivers that maybe are struggling. And Jelly, Isenbard's teammate, a second back. Vidmontien, a second back. Jared Clark, 1.2 back. You go back to Cash Perkins at 1.4. Ibrahim Dean, 1.7 back, and more. But the field is not closing to the likes of Isenbard nearly as much as we would expect after essentially 5 practices now for the KA guys.
Yeah, it looks like a mid-105 is kind of the midfield pace. So for Isenbard to be at a 104.6 all by himself, that is not a fluke lap. That's just Alan Isenbard putting the hammer down on the Rocket Racing Company machine. A little bit surprised, I would say, by the lack of pace from Vidmontien. We saw him, I mean, he's been up and down this season. It's his rookie year in senior. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that. A lot of sort of, I guess, gremlins that he's kind of fought so far through the season. But I think this has probably been the worst he's been in terms of pure pace all year long. So gonna have to figure something out on the SLA machine. Jared Clark as well, championship contender, 4th in the championship entering the weekend, and to be down in the 20s after a good day yesterday is a little concerning. And also Davin Roberts on the flip side, yesterday, a little bit of a struggle. Today looks a little bit better inside the top 15, but certainly both of those guys, if they want any shot at Oliver Hodgson for the championship, they're gonna have to put something together over the course of the next hour to put themselves in a better spot for qualifying.
If there's anything that we've learned from the KA class, anything that you know personally from driving in this exact field, Emery, is that no matter how strong you may be in a qualifying session, no matter how strong your kart might be on a 1-lap warm-up session or 2 laps in warm-up, the race is different, right? I mean, you look back to Charlotte, I think Jared Clark was kind of an anomaly in terms of the KA class where he just had the field covered all weekend, but it's pretty rare, it seems like, in this class to do so.
Yeah, I mean, you rarely see those walkaways. We saw it in the final in Newcastle with Oliver Hodgson, but that felt like more of an anomaly of the other guys fighting. With Jared Quaker was a legitimate pace advantage. This track, again, more technical, a lot of fast sweeping corners. The draft effect doesn't play as much. You might see a breakaway. You might see a guy like Isambard put 3 to 4 tenths on the field and consistently do that enough to break away from the rest of the pack. But it's a long day. It's a long weekend. It's just morning warm-up. I'm sure a lot of guys probably have theoreticals a lot better than what their actual lap time was, so don't want to make it sound too ominous, but certainly a strong start to the day for Alan Isambard as he gets set for qualifying, and we get set for qualifying with KA Masters now rolling up to the grid.
As John Bonanno gives Emery the bunny ears there, showing that it's all fun down here on the grid, but obviously the KA Masters rolling out onto the grid. Quite a big break here in the action, about 10 minutes, a little over 10 minutes before we get ready for their qualifying session. Let's take a quick break in the action. We'll come back to you live.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200?
I'm tired of all this Brandon business, okay? Brandon this, Brandon that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR over $200? We know, okay? Take a walk with me. At Shop AKR, they have everything you need to start racing at a very cheap and affordable price. They have MXC rims, they got chains, electrical stands, tilt seats, they got MXCs. And if you didn't know, on top of that, any purchase in the continental US over $200, that's free shipping.
Hey, aren't you supposed to be in the AKR Anonymous meeting over there?
Dude, I'm doing a commercial.
Dude, we have no time. It's about to start.
Stop. We all love Shop AKR. Me? More than others. What do I get at Shop AKR?
MXC rims.
Paulie Massimino wins in KA. Paulie Massimino is a winner in OKN Stars.
Take your driving to the next level with one-on-one coaching from 2024 OKN Stars champion Paulie Massimino. Kart rental options are available if you'd like to keep yours at home, and drivers in all classes are welcome, from Briggs 206 to Mini to KA100 and X30. With in-depth data analysis, onboard video footage review, and lead follow on-track sessions, each private coaching session will see you end as a more complete driver than when you started. Book your coaching session now.
Kyle, what are you doing?
It's got my new Greyhound seat.
You don't even have a cart.
Doesn't matter. I have a Greyhound.
Who the f is Kyle Cuthbertson? Doesn't even have a go-kart.
Doesn't matter.
Cuthbertson through on Turney, Turney in the dirt.
Paulie Massimino wins the Wisconsin Grand Prix. James Overbeck on start number 2 gets win number 1 in OKN Stars.
On track or off, Brandon Jarskrek Racing delivers elite performance. Led by 4-time Pro National Champion Brandon Jarskrek, our team masters driver coaching, data-driven analysis, and mechanical precision at every national event. Contact us today at BrandonJarskrekRacing.com.
Are you stuck with your kart racing? Not sure the ideal kart setup? Or going to a track for the first time? Well, Kart Class has the answers for you. Our online portal has a wealth of experience and knowledge to help your kart racing. From kart setup advice to track guides that are targeted specifically to your circuit, or the driver coaching aspect with mindset, racecraft and driving techniques. If you want to take your karting to the next level, visit us at kartclass.com.
Florida Kart Racers, you asked for it and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLKC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
Paulie Massimino wins the...
All the way up to the finish line. Who is it going to be? And it's Rok Masters who wins in Crescent.
Ty Fisher wins $1,000 in KA100 Junior.
How about John Bird for TV Kart USA on home soil? They take the win in Amarillo.
Amarillo Kart Complex is now the official distributor for TV Kart in the continental U.S. Become a dealer today.
Champions aren't just born on the kart track. At SimShop, we deliver professional-grade simulators with the best performance-to-price ratio in the industry. Founded by racers who understand what you need, our SimMagic and Moza equipment is powerful enough for the pros, yet affordable for everyone. With unmatched customer support and a thriving community, we're your racing partner. Visit simshop.com today.
Are you ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
Hey, what's up, Caleb?
What's up, Brandon?
You sound defeated. A long day at the office?
Yeah, got stuck at a cat food marketing meeting for like 3 hours. I don't know a thing about cat food, and I don't even work in marketing. And then I got sent on a coffee run like I was some sort of intern. Then at the end of the day, when I want to go get gas, I just realized everything is so darn expensive nowadays, man.
Yeah, you got that right.
Like, do you have any idea how much we're spending on Netflix?
It's like $20 a month.
Do you know how much we're spending on cable?
That's like $50 a month.
But you know what isn't expensive?
Tell me.
Kart Chaser Premium. For only $9.99 a month, you can watch all the American karting action live from coast to coast. Subscribe and become a member today.
Let's go race.
Come on, man.
Florida kart racers, you asked for it, and we're going to bring it. Introducing Florida Karting Championship, FLKC, a brand new racing series coming to Florida in 2026.
Well, for those watching along from anywhere around the world and probably a good bit here at the property in Salem, Ohio, welcome to Quaker City Motorsports Park for the Stars Championship Series Earthquake. And my name's Xander Clemens, alongside me for the first time on the national tour, but a name that many of you Kart Chaser grassroots followers will be familiar with, and many more in the sim racing world. Bradley Dalton joins me for his first big race on tour. Good to have you.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Xander. It's great to be here, man. Yeah, it's cool to step up from grassroots to national. It's really fun to kind of see where things are going. Obviously, I've seen a lot of names that I already recognize, so it doesn't feel that much different. I kind of feel at home, and this is a track that has really felt like home, even though it's about 6 hours from home for me. Different feeling, different setup, but I'm excited.
Yeah, it's just beneath the Cincinnati border, of course, coming from Louisville, where we were just a week ago, 6 days ago, live at the CKNA Summer Nationals, one of the 4 majors on the year for the Briggs & Stratton 206 drivers. And now for the third of 4 rounds of the 2025 Stars Championship Series calendar, the Earthquake, a debut, a historic weekend. This is the first touring series event at Quaker City Motorsports Park. The CKNA North Divisional Series will be here in a few weeks' time. And for Stars, this is a cool story, as the KA Masters are just getting their first laps on the racetrack with fresh rubber today with qualifying. Is that in talking with Joe Janowski at the end of last year, he's like, man, I want to do something cool, something a bit aggressive. Let's go try something a little bit different. And so, being the first series to take to the asphalt here that has been already taken quite a bit of rubber and grip, and of course the Rhino patchwork that was done even to smooth it out some more after last weekend's club event. They are the first series that'll go down in the books to host a U.S. national event at Quaker City Motorsports Park's karting circuit. And so, with 4 minutes plus 2 laps to go, the first honor for KA Masters to go in the books as the first ever pole award winner at this racetrack currently sits in the hands of Andy Kutcher. The privateer, his brother Chris, also ran with him back at Newcastle Motorsports Park. I don't believe Chris was able to make the trip out here to Quaker City, but it's another healthy turnout of 20 plus for KA Masters. This class has been always a bit tricky for any series to pull together, just due to the fact that, well, everyone here's got a day job. You are talking about the drivers 30 years of age and older. A handful of them are involved in the sport in many different ways. For example, Paul Montopoli heads up the Best Kart operation, the AMV Products importer, and in parallel with their satellite team, Prodigy Motorsports, here this weekend. That's got Eric Hennig under the tent, and I think they're tented together in the paddock area. They currently sit 8th and 9th. Chris Horan now to the top as well by a good margin, 4/10 over Andy Kutcher. Austin Queen, another driver involved. His day job is the sport with QG3 Karting, the team owner. John Bonanno as well with Fulcrum Competition, a comp kart dealer out of New Jersey, and running under the Timmy Tech tent, the North Carolina-based comp kart team here this weekend. He's the number 1 plate as he's the reigning series champ, and he has been able to keep that title 2 seasons ongoing now due to consistency, and that's what we're seeing again out of the number 1 plate, currently third. Now, you saw the Orsilon car on your screen, the 277 green and black and white of Miguel Mir put his hand in the air coming out of the last turn. We saw yesterday in Pro Shifter qualifying that Adrian Reddington most notably, but many others were burned on the final bit of their lap by catching traffic. Obviously, something happened there that we kind of caught a bit of that frustrated Miguel, and it kind of goes along with what I believe Colin Lloyd or one of the other superstars we talked to on Friday mentioned that, you know, as good as Eto'o is, as fast as this place is, even Jordan Muster said you can run a variety of gear ratios for the shifter guys because, while yes, there are a lot of corners on this racetrack, they're all pretty high speed, and you don't really, you know, go up and down the rev range all too much. So you would think that it would be a very draft-dependent racetrack, and we've heard that from a lot of the kids saying the racing is going to look like that the draft is going to be 2 or 3 tenths. But with so many places to get up in the air like that and get onto 2 wheels and make mistakes, the draft is maybe not what you want in qualifying because you run that risk of 16 corners, 16 chances for the car in front of you to make a bobble. Now that is going to be a very common sight here, Bradley, with the Rhino patchwork that was done on the apex of a lot of these corners. Track already has fresh asphalt and a lot of grip to it, but that darker patchwork is similar to the karting's equivalent used on so many of our tracks. It's used on plenty of other racetracks as well, but for casual fans watching, if you're familiar with NASCAR and the PJ1 compound, they were using on a lot of 1.5-mile tracks in Phoenix and a handful of other circuits to get that second groove to work, and it was super grippy. That's essentially what is at the apex, the middle point of every corner here.
Yeah, it's been the talking point of the weekend from all of the entryway research that I've had here as we see this replay here, Miguel Meyer. I mean, look at this. This is a common sight here in the upper classes, is just absolutely send it, go up on 2 wheels. I mean, I'm almost concerned that we're going to see somebody go completely on their side by the end of the weekend here. But here's the counter as we go back live. The 227 there having a good slide off, because that's the other part of it, is if you're not on that, is we have another cart going off.
Oh, man.
That's the 277.
Yeah, Miguel, and one more around with him, Bo Amato, and the Kartworks Racing purple and white machine is spun right up against one of the Mazda Motorsports feather flags in the infield. You can see the marshal there standing off to the side trying to let Bo know in the full-size classes, the marshals, if they touch your go-kart, your session ends. For the kids, there's a different rule, but for the adult classes here, you're able to get out and push yourself back onto the racetrack if you can refire. The OKN divisions and shifter classes, they're bump start classes, so they're not allowed to bump start the motor. But the onboard starters for the KA and Swifts, well, you can, but going off the racetrack might disable some more cables, as there's another one. That is, I believe, one of the QG3 karting blue and black machines. That's the 297. That is Paul Mice. So Mice going wide. Here's another look at Miguel. Turn 1, off into the dirt, and there are a lot of rocks, and then Bo Amato spinning kind of simultaneously trying to avoid the contact that would have been with Miguel. And that, of course, brings all of that onto the circuit, and that's why you're not going to see, I don't think, much movement here on this final lap by the loop. Chris Horan still safe at the top of the board. Bonanno second. Kutcher third, Queen fourth, Adamar Caligaro in fifth, and I think that should hold. So here's your provisional results from KA Masters Qualifying. Chris Horan, his first pole award of the season, comes at round number 3. The reigning champ, 2-timer trying to be 3 times. He's got another great spot to start from for the 2 heats later today. John Bonanno, 2.5 tenths back in second. Kutcher third, Queen fourth, Caligaro, Stifler, Falcone, Paul Mice, Paul Monto, and Paul Montopoli. But as they roll through the scale line, we'll keep the intel rolling here. KA Masters is the first of 6 classes that will qualify this morning. The Mazda Motorsports Pro Show divisions have already wrapped their qualifying sessions yesterday, but that's a hefty lap time for Haran. A 66-2-4-8 for the Cosmic driver as he heads over post-session tech and probably to go get a kart stand as well. Plenty of drivers in the Masters class. Will be a one-man band, and we'll have to go and get their kart stand. They may not have a mechanic with them. They might be their own mechanic and their own wrench. And they've got time because they won't be back on track until 10:50 a.m. Eastern. So that's a wrap on 1-5 grids still are left to be set, and we jump from the oldest age group on the structure, the KA Masters at 30 and over. Well, second oldest now with the Super Masters class for KZ at 45 and over, to the youngest superstars, Motorsports Next Generation, the future stars of the series and beyond. The Micro Swifts getting set to go here, ages 7 to 10 years old, and you probably won't see as much two-wheeling in this class for a couple of reasons. They use a skinnier rear tire. It's a 7-inch rear to a 4.5 front split for the full-size divisions. It's a all-around 4.5-inch tire for the Micro and Mini Swift classes. They're also at a much lower minimum weight, and that's going to help, especially for the taller drivers, the fully grown stars of the series. Having that higher center of gravity, these kids much lower to the ground, you may not see as much two-wheeling. You might see a tick of it, but more than anything, they're going to be able to just drive right through the grip and lay down some heaters. And I think all of them are in the same boat of wanting to be in a pack for qualifying. This is pretty par for the course. If it's high speed for the shifter and K Senior Master and OKN drivers, it's definitely going to be a high speed chess match here for the Micro and Mini Swift drivers. And leading the pack out is Brody Stoffel in that blue and white J. Howard Driver Development Kart Republic, the number 29. Decent yesterday, great year already. Got his first career win on the national scene just not long ago at the beginning of this KC summer stretch. And he leads out Slate Harrell, who won the opening round at Charlotte. And behind him looks to be Liam Francisco, who topped the boards in happy hour yesterday under the Ryan Perry Motorsport Nitro Kart Camp.
Yeah, this is the class that I really get excited about. You know, we go from, as you said, the oldest group to the youngest group, back and forth, and it's so interesting to see, because what's funny is that a lot of that group in the Masters class that we see, their family is actually going to be running in Micro and Mini Swift. We see that a lot in grassroots, that, you know, karting becomes a family affair. So don't be surprised throughout the weekend and throughout any karting event if you see a lot of the same last names through multiple classes.
Right.
That's one of those that I absolutely love to see. It's one of the things that I wish I could do. I don't have kids, but, you know, I'd love to do this. I'd love to have a family member run this with me, but I don't like getting beat by the family members, so that's a whole nother thing. On this, you know, this Micro Swift class, it's so funny to hear you talk about the, you know, the grown drivers in this class, because it's 7 to 10-year-olds running this, and this is the really interesting part of Micro Swift, is that these names you see now are names that we're going to watch for years and years develop through, and these are drivers that some of them are just learning the run of things. Some of them are going to jump in and do great, but again, we go back to this track. This track has not really been raced but once now. Yep. So this track is new to everyone, so I think this is a great point to watch and really see who those standout stars are going to be in each class, because of the fact that this is so much of a driver-dependent situation we found ourselves in.
And I'll have to double check myself if they've run 2 or 3 club races here. There was obviously one last weekend that a handful of drivers made the trek out to Salem, Ohio early to get some laps on the circuit before the official Friday practice day got underway, because there is a testing ban from Monday to Thursday with the Stars Championship Series. But only a handful probably got to do that. So you're talking 4 sessions, and we did the math yesterday. I mean, you're talking at most 20 laps. And then they had a warm-up this morning, so another 5 to 7, and that's it. And you're only seeing these corners, again, that number of times. There's so many different ones, even for us, with the fantastic views that our camera operators are able to get around this circuit. A lot of it looks similar. It's probably easy to get lost and forget a little bit of where you are. We're talking elementary school kids from ages 7 to 10 years old, and they've got not only remember where they are, remember everything that's been coached to them, because that's a lot of what the downtime in between every session is for these young drivers. going back, reviewing the onboard data and the GPS and mile an hour that they're able to get off their onboard Micron data gauges. But also many of them will have an onboard camera like you can see there on the number 11 machine of Mason Brody. He's got one of those 360 fly cams that can see or 360 action cams that can see both front, back, and to the side, and a lot of them as well having the GoPro cameras or Smarty cams on the left side of their seat rail to be able to see what they're doing with their hands, with their feet. They'll go in back to their pit area, whether it's a driver, coach, or parent, or mechanic, watch the video with them, have the kids watch it themselves and go, all right, you could brake a little deeper here, turn it a little later or sooner there, get on the power earlier, and then try to remember all that, take it in and apply it in the next session over this 16-corner circuit. Slate Harrell right now, best of the bunch, 69.372. It'll get bested by Brody Stoffel here as the times will shift. He'll be able to answer back with a decent time, but now it'll be Dutch Westbrook going to the top. Let's watch this duo here crossing the line. That's Lennox Lockhart now just up the road in the 14. He just put himself to 5th. Liam Francisco sits provisionally in 4th. Bo Stower's 6th. And the two we were following, Grayson Knifick and Caden Cladera, the pair of Velocity Racing Sodi karts, are down in 12th and 13th. And to kind of build back off your point originally here, Bradley, about this track being so new, that's why you're going to see some pretty wide field spreads still at this point in the weekend. But the evolution is going to be very quick in terms of how, the drivers further back learn, adapt, change, and pick up time. And by the time we get to the main event tomorrow afternoon, you'll see a much closer delta from the front to the back of the field, because you can only go so fast. You can always try to drive better and look for a little bit more, but getting to the limit, everyone will have more time to learn on that, and especially in the heat races when you're going to be around all of the fast drivers as well, because they're all spread apart here even in qualifying.
Yeah, they're spread through all the way front to back of the field, but the thing I'm looking at gap-wise is the top 3. Westbrook, Stoffel, Harrell, they're separated by less than 2/10 right now. That is going to continue to compress, and that is going to be the cool thing with the weekend is they might be early on that line of where they're at, but if you watch back through the field, you'll see all of these other drivers, again, with that younger age, start to push that run through, and then the question becomes, with the limited track time that you've gotten here, 4 warm-ups, 4 qualifying now, and 4 our events through today and tomorrow, how much more can you really push through? What can you really find? And that's one of those that at this younger age, it's a very much a balance thing, because this is also an endurance act. Between yesterday, today, tomorrow, I mean, I know I'm already a little bit tired, and it's 9:30 in the morning. I can't imagine how these drivers feel after all of the practice sessions yesterday. By the time they hit tomorrow night, they're going to be ready to sleep the entire ride home wherever they're going to.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of sleepy co-pilots, I'm sure, on the way out of Quaker City. 40 seconds to go. Slate Harrell and Brody Stoffel still in tandem. Last time by, neither one went any better. Both of them close to their best lap time, within a 10th for each of them, but not improving at this point. That also tracks with what we heard yesterday, that John Antonino mentioned that he felt like lap 3 was kind of the money lap. And with the MG tires that are used, the reds for all classes except for OKN Stars and the KZ, the shifter classes, that'll use the softer MG yellow compound. It's been a big topic this year with the current iteration. Last year was the debut in the spring of this generation of tire, that it's just as much about heat, if not more, than degradation. So plenty of drivers, especially in maybe KA Stars, you may see, bail out on lap 4 and try to cool them back down and do another push lap on lap 5 or lap 6. Now, you're not going to build as much heat in the cadet classes here, so you'll see probably more of the like with Swift Stars coming up. That'll look similar to this, where they'll just go for all 6 and try to learn and try to push for all of them. Let's see if this time by anything changes up top. Nothing for the first 2, nothing for Liam Francisco. Next across the line, Dutch Westbrook and Hudson Howard. Howard will improve. Mason Brody gets a bit of a toe off the back of the 2 of them. He'll jump to 5th. Gets by Jack Katowski in the 92. Younger brother to Nico, who will be on track here shortly with KA Jr. But I think it will hold to the end. Dutch Westbrook and Team Bennick atop the pylon in the number 30. Brody Stoffel, Slate Harrell, Liam Francisco, and Mason Brody's final lap. Actually a tie
to Liam Francisco's best time, both at a 69.632 apiece. And the nod by mere 0.010 of a second just off the back of the monitor goes to the number 41. The Canadian will get the outside of the second row. So Dutch Westbrook tops it in Micro Swift qualifying, down to Brody Allegretta there in 15th. 16th will be Mark Ayers, and 17th Bryson Barnett for the field. But that delta for your top three, like you mentioned, less than 0.2. Westbrook, Stoffel, Harrell, and now the real learning can begin later with how they need to play the racetrack against each other, because we know they're going to be probably pretty close. So let's send it down to hear from our top qualifier. Alexander Searle is in the scales.
Dutch, that's pole. I mean, walk me through what it takes to put a lap together around this place.
Corner one's very hard because you got that big bump. So if you want to go flat out, you have to be perfect. If you're not, you're going to go flying off. Second corner, you have to be perfect or you're not going to do good in it. Like every corner's on rails and everything.
You talk about every corner being on rails. How tough is it in these smaller chassis to kind of do a good lap with all the grip around this place?
It's very hard.
What do you think going into the race? How do you think it's going to race? You're starting up front. I mean, do you think it's going to be easy to pass or pretty tough for the other guys?
It's going to be pretty tough. It's pretty tight in this track, so there's not going to be very, like on the straightaways, there's not going to be very passing zones. They're going to have to pass in the corners.
Thank you, Dutch.
You're welcome.
There you have it from Dutch Westbrook. As mentioned, the corners will be the big difference maker, and that's going to be especially the case in the OKN divisions with the rev limiter. It's an unlimited rev range, so the draft will help keep everyone as the motor will keep spinning in Micro and Mini Swift and in K Junior, K Stars, and K Masters. And in Shifter, it'll be even tougher because with the KZ Masters and KZ Super Masters onto the circuit now, the difference for them is that the line is already naturally narrower with so much power and the ability to go up and down the 6 gears on the rev range. They will really more so try to pivot at the center point of any and every apex. So you're kind of shortening your run in, stopping the bus right in the center, and then narrow line out. The quicker you can get those front tires straight, the better the launch will be. In comparison to the single gear classes, like for everyone else, they're trying to arc as much as possible. Granted, you're going to have a slightly narrower line due to the rubber as it gets laid down because you don't want to cross over it. You want to get underneath it and use it as a cushion in dirt racing, if you will. And the Rhino liner acts very similarly. But for the shifters, they'll be even tighter going in. It'll make it very tricky to try and make moves with how many corners are kind of long and flowing. And even like this one here at the top of the hill after that first major straightaway on the layout, where it bends a bit to the right and just naturally sends the driver to driver's left right down to the inside. Jordan Musser gave a lot of really good intel yesterday, and well, Alexander Searle was able to get that. He's also got a little bit more for us. What do you got, Alex?
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit more about Jordan Musser here because you talk about the differing lines, right? Single speeds, you're going to see a lot of drivers arc the line. Obviously, the rubber's going to get built in. The line's going to get tighter. The Rhino liner is going to change a little bit. The shifter guys, we're used to seeing more of that diamond line. Approach in narrow, exit kind of shallow as well. You can use that first gear, even second gear for certain guys to power yourself out of the corner. But the one thing me and Emery kind of touched on this morning was Jordan Musser's line is slightly different to a lot of the other guys out here on the racetrack. And I wonder if the line's going to be shifting as the day goes on, as drivers watch Jordan Musser around this racetrack, and maybe as they've heard myself or Emery mention it, his line is closer to what you'll see from the single speed guys. There's certain corners like the tight hairpins where Musser's going to dive in early no matter what to kind of block off the turning points, block off the passing zones, and kind of get that arc. But in certain instances, he's been one of the only guys that I've heard kind of have that larger coast period in the middle, carry a higher minimum speed, and actually lower the entry speed down to minimize hopping, kind of save those front tires for the rest of the day-to-day.
Interesting. And again, another point too of why that narrow line is preferred, because you're not necessarily leaning on that outside front tire as much as you would be with a wider arc and trying to roll more speed through the center. So if he's able to shorten the distance and not keep that that minimum roll speed up, or that maximum roll speed up as much through the radius of the corner, well, it'll work out a little more in his favor to keep the tires underneath him to the end of the session. And that won't play as much of a factor probably today in the 2 heat races, but when you add in the pre-final as their 4th heat cycle tomorrow before they get to put fresh tires on for the final, you'll see really who's taking care of their tires and equipment better or worse in that session alone. And then that final is long enough that if you do push a bit too hard or make any mistakes early on in the session, you won't have anything left to fight with when it counts in the final few laps. And you combine that with the long corners really putting the drivers under a lot of G-load, 2 to 3 Gs through some of these corners. It's some of the fastest, long flowing, longest time under load corners that we'll see on the national tour this year. So everyone's getting tested. Yesterday the heat and the sun was brutal. And I think today and tomorrow we'll see a lot of the same. So the physical endurance factor is going to definitely be another talking point throughout the day. You already saw even in the morning sessions the sweat dripping off the drivers in the scale line as they came off, and this is only a 7-minute qualifying session. So how well can everyone manage themselves as much as their machines to be there at the end right now in terms of hot lap pace? Jake Fetter looks like he'll have a pretty starting spot to try and take it easy from. He sits atop the board, 61.380. Musser second. Matt Machiko, the reigning Masters champ, in third. Super Masters drivers are noted by the 500 number plates, 600s for the Masters. Masters are 30 and up, Super Masters 45 and up. The minimum weight the same for both. But again, it's a little bit higher than the Pro Masters or Pro Stars drivers minimum weight. So you'll see even more, G-load going to those tires, more force going down to that right front tire in a lot of these left-handed corners. Just with that extra 10 to 20 pounds, it makes a difference.
Yeah, one of the things, that's really interesting to watch through as we have these heaviest classes on is the fact that they're not leaning out as much. One of the things we've watched, especially with that, the PJ1 style grip tape that's put on this track here, is that it's that mid-class level, the juniors, that we're really seeing the sort of lean through. These shifter carts are staying very planted, so you have to baby the tires a bit more, I'd say, in this Masters and Super Masters setup than I think you will in other classes. And it's going to be interesting to watch the right side tires specifically of these carts throughout the weekend, as you said, because the big thing that I worry about for a lot of these drivers is how do you balance that? Because the thing is, you get such limited time on track. You're sitting on such a compressed sort of setup where it's you can't afford really to balance it out. I think of 24-hour races and, endurance racing on road courses. You can afford to drive half a second, 3/4 of a second a lap slower. In karting, 61.380, 61.4, 2/100 of a second. You look at that, it's so minimal differences in pace. You almost can't afford to not drive flat out, but you can't afford to drive flat out. And it's such a hard balance to find that I sort of envy the drivers for it.
And that's why you're seeing some of them pull in early. We saw there Ryan Frank in the 605 just head for the scale line. There's only a handful of drivers that are going to run all 6. Jake Fetter in, Matt Machiko in, Jordan Musser in. And for Fetter, this is a huge leap overnight from happy hour yesterday. 9/10 gained from a 62.2 to a 61.3. Massive improvements overnight for Jake Fetter. And as the checkers wave for the final few, I don't believe any of them will be able to top his time. They'll hit the line and they will stay towards the bottom. Let's go down to our top qualifier as we head to the scale lines with Alex.
Jake, what a big improvement from yesterday afternoon there. What do you think made the difference here in qualifying for you?
Oh, man, I don't know. Put on the race motor. I know that helped a ton. Just kind of chipping away at a few other things, trying to get a feel for the track. Just make sure to keep the kart under me. I knew pressures were going to be big coming into this, too. Just trying to time it, make sure it came in when you needed it to. So, yeah, super stoked.
We're seeing a couple of guys go for differing lines around this place. What is it like on a shifter package to go around Quaker here?
Oh, man, it's rough. There's a few places where there's big bumps into heavy braking zones. Experimented with a few lines. That might be some of the differences that we're seeing out there with these guys. Just trying to see how you can avoid it. The Rhino liner is also huge. There's some spots where, like on corner entry, there's nothing there. Center of their corner, it bites super hard. trying to figure out how to best approach these things with the liner there to keep it from unsettling the cart. So, yeah.
I was kind of making assumptions this morning of how the tire is going to progress. From what you learned yesterday at all, do you feel like there's going to be some deg as we enter tomorrow's pre-final as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think taking good care of these things throughout the day today and for the pre-final tomorrow is going to be huge. A lot of long corners, a lot of heat, a lot of opportunities to just slide around. The fresh tires sliding around can still be pretty fast, but I don't know how fast it's going to be tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Jake.
Thanks.
Again, you can see, as elated as he may be, to be able to pick up the time and get going faster. The focus is all about management and looking ahead on the weekend. This is just the first step towards standing on the top step of the podium as the first ever winner of the Stars Championship Series Earthquake here at Quaker City Motorsports Park. Jake Fetter by just a matter of hundredths on top in Masters qualifying. And he'll head to the pit lane to do a little more prep and debrief before we send them back out later today for Heat 1 at 11:20. Next up, a full house, 40-plus for K.A. Jr., just barely over the standard cap, but not enough that we will split them up this weekend. All 40-plus will share the racetrack throughout every time session. It has thankfully made the day a little bit shorter for the hardworking on-track crew we have, as well as the Stars and Quaker City track staff, and that is, I'm sure, well appreciated. Yesterday slotted to end at 4. Today should end right around probably 4:45, maybe 5 p.m. outside of any potential delays. And that said, that's going to make qualifying very interesting right here. They are, I believe, split in half based on happy hour yesterday. Bottom half and top half solely for qualifying, but it'll be all together for both heat races. Everyone gets to go to the main, but that means a full house pre-final tomorrow per the schedule. So with K.A. Jr. now released, let's see what else we can find. Oliver Nabert, first driver that we'll see kick off the lap times here in the 8.56 red speed as he heads towards the front stretch finish line, and we'll start lap number 1 at the front of the train. So happy hour essentially became and it has been on other weekends as well, a pre-qualifying session. Many drivers opting to go with fresh rubber to try and give themselves the best possible chance to go to the fast group, the top half for the qualifying split. This is the bottom half, so more or less around 22nd or 23rd and below in final practice on circuit together. And the track's going to only get faster as more karts get on it, more rubber gets laid down, and it warms up as well here this early in the morning. But the other benefit of going in the fast group is you're around, well, what you could assume faster drivers. But there are a couple of quick names in this pack. Nathan Dupuis, notably, has been a front runner this year. He's found himself in the bottom half of final practice and out on track for group number 1 of 2 in K.A. Jr. Behind him, Nico Katowski, Jack the younger brother in Swift Stars, Nico the older brother in K.A. Jr. and OKN Jr. These two have stood on the podium this year. They have run in the top 10 consistently, but they are looking for hopefully some clear racetrack to put some times in amongst the fray as Nico gets all out of shape down there on the brakes in turn 1.
Yeah, seeing Nico go through there. Nico, a name that I'm familiar with from grassroots, running out of MCC, the Katowskis. Very familiar with them from Cincinnati. Always fast down there. Seeing them on the national level, duking it out up at the front. No surprise to me with the experience that I have with them. But everyone here is fast. And, you know, the one thing I always say with K.A. Juniors on grassroots, but I'll bring it here, is that these drivers have no chill. They have no calm to be found. It is going through, you know, we've spent a good chunk of our morning here talking about how do you save tires, how do you make it physically through the day. These drivers will push these karts in themselves until there's nowhere to push. And, you know, that's the thing with juniors. When you look at that age group, you look at that class structure, you look at the setup, and you think about, is somebody has decided to run some dust there off the side. I don't see anybody off in the grass, though, thankfully, but it looks like maybe just trying to stretch the lines a little bit here, get away and just open up the track for when we do get 40 karts on track later.
I mean, they're all definitely pushing right now, and cold tires on the outlap is going to see a lot of moments like that. You even saw Dupuis kind of hang that right rear tire on the edge of the outside curbing in turn number 1. But that first lap for him puts him on top. Isaac Payne second. This pack that's just going below us here now has a couple drivers that have already reshuffled themselves on their first lap around, so they have not put in really a good gauge yet. Edward Kennedy and Max Weiland I saw had pulled to the inside to drop back and get a tow, and Valentino Santillan was waiting on them for quite some time. I don't know if he was late to get out from the grid. I believe he may have been, and the Parolin driver fell into that group now, but we've got one off in the tires. That is the 833 trying to rejoin. We'll see if we can ID who that may be. It's one of the host driver development Gillards that has gone around here early, and it's Fernando Weiler. So no laps turned for him yet. He's going to have to hustle 3 minutes. You can see he's back in the go-kart now at the exit of turn number 1. One of many spots we've seen even the best go off and end up in the wall. And when he comes back on the racetrack, he'll not just bring dust and sand and dirt, he'll bring a ton of gravel and rocks onto the circuit as well. So another lap in the books. Travis Pettit on screen with Isaac Malcutt behind him there in the blue and black. Mike Doty racing LN Kart. Gives him a little love tap there as he gets out of shape, trying to shove him along. John Antonino and Edward Kennedy in line. And Oliver Nabert, the fastest of this group from practice, or from happy hour yesterday. Actually, all 36 are out there, so my mistake. They are running as one group for qualifying. But Oliver Nabert, who led the field out, he actually had a mechanical in happy hour yesterday. He put the fast time in, didn't get to finish the session. Didn't matter. He still was quickest overall, led them onto this. Oh, sorry. Correction. Nabert pulled off in this one. So fastest in happy hour, 1 lap completed, and he's down in 27th. So Oliver Nabert, our fastest from Friday, well down the board. He'll probably end up further back than that of the 36 on track in KA Junior. So a heartbreaker for the privateer who impressed already at his home racetrack in Newcastle and was looking really good here this weekend. Now he's going to have a long road ahead of him for 2 heats that are set off this quali session, which again has just reordered itself. Antonino's going to reorder himself physically on the circuit. He'll drop to the back of this pack now. Let a few of them go by, including Landon Boer, it looked like there in the 820, his teammate on the red and white MPG colors. But it's Katowski, Dupuis, Callan Berghofer, John Antonino 4th, Parker Ives 5th, and there's a look at Nabert. No airbox on the 856. He lost that somewhere on track, and if it is off and on the circuit, that'll be a DQ from the session, which will mar him to 36th.
That is not where Nabert's going to want to be. Nabert fastest yesterday, and then you come out and this is how you kick off a Saturday morning. I mean, it sets such a bad tone for your Saturday, Sunday, but at the same time, it kind of gives a little bit extra motivation for Nabert. It's kind of, you have to get in the headspace of going through. He does have the airbox, thankfully, so no DQ from the session. But here's the thing, is Nabert's sitting 29th in times right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him drop a little bit further, make it 30th, make it 31st. That is such a disheartening feeling as a driver, is to sit there and just know that you can't do anything else, watch yourself drop down, but it also, you can bounce back from it, set it as a challenge for later in the weekend and say, all right, last to first challenge, who doesn't like one of those?
And the nice part is he gets 2 resets, right? After the heats are run, they re-grid them and re-rack them based on points for the pre-final grid. Based on where you finish there is how you line for the final. So if he can just get up into the top 20, top 15 overall by the end of today off 2 good runs in the heats, and then have another good charge forward in the pre-final, he'll be okay. One is way off, almost to the fence line and the trees. It looks maybe one of the it's Riley Dobelier on the Ryan Perry Motorsport entry. She's off. Meanwhile, Katowski on top. Kennedy currently second. There goes Dupuis, Isaac Payne, and Katowski by. They will not improve. Antonino's final lap has leapfrogged him to 3rd at a 65 flat. More to go, but I think most of the fast drivers may have already hit the line. Derek Wargo going by. A few more behind him will shuffle inside the top 30. But I think that should seal it. Nico Katowski, 64.95 pole award in qualifying by 600ths over Edward Kennedy. Just a couple more back to John Antonino Jr. in 3rd, Nathan Dupuis 4th, Gabriel Balog, his first weekend with the TV Kart USA squad, P5 on the green machine, 6th Pettit, Santillan, Berghofer, Malcutt, Parker Ives, your top 10, but Nico Katowski, J&M Racing, and TKG Beryl Art USA, fastest in qualifying for KA Junior.
Nico Cataldo, all the emotions there coming to the pits, you and your dad kind of fist bumping together. What does this mean to you to get pole here?
It means a lot because we've been working really hard with all my coaches and everything to try to figure out the kart this weekend. So, and it's started to work like last session yesterday, so we're pretty happy because we know we have the pace.
You have the pace. What's been the biggest challenge for you guys throughout the weekend, kind of improving the go-kart around this racetrack?
Just sometimes having too much front, so it bounces a lot, and then we take off, and just the whole kart sliding. So I guess we got a good balance now. So
You think you have a good enough piece to kind of hold off the rest of these guys behind you?
yeah, I think I have what it takes. As long as I don't make any mistakes, I should be good.
Congrats, Nico.
Thank you.
Just like that, right back to it. Swift Stars onto the racetrack now for 8 to 12 years old, and we got one off. I think he may have just lost something as well. It's the 144 that has gone out at the end of that main run, end of the first major straightaway. We'll try to figure out what may have gone wrong for him, taking a look at the circuit. So for the main group, though, beginning of lap 1 starts now. Dominic Gaddis leads the charge across the line. Jake Manolio, Max Macha, Holden Myers. That's a fast pack here from Friday Happy Hour that I would expect will probably start to put some burner times in. They've already linked up there a little bit up the road from Myers, so it's a 3-man group as they crest the little hill there in the first sector, head through the 290s right by pit lane, and get to the first run at full song on lap number 1. Dominic Gaddis right front and center in the 114 black and red MPG Motorsports kart with the white helmet behind him here. That's a move. Looked to be Nicholas Mose getting shuffled to the wayside in the 133. Going by him, I think, was Jaden Francisco. He wanted to keep up with that main group ahead and not lose too much time. And you saw just in that moment how wide Mose went, how dirty it already is going up just one groove on the circuit. And it really, from most of the drivers, the feedback is that it's about a half lap at minimum to kind of clean that tire back off, all four, if you do go wide. You can even see, again, the gray rocks getting drug onto the circuit there in the last turn. There's probably a lot on the entry to turn 2 as well from all the offs we've seen down here at turn 1. But that lap, that was about picture perfect. You just saw in the switch there behind this group of 3, Jaden Francisco passing Enzo De Janeiro for 5th on the circuit position-wise. He got the toe right at the end of the lap and then took that to go by him down by turn number 1. That's kind of where you want to be. It's okay. It's still pretty good to push like how Jake Manolio and Dominic Gaddis were right there. But if you start your lap 4 or 5 car lengths back, end it right on the bumper of the kart that you're following, you're going to go really, really fast.
Yeah, that draft working, as we talked about, at the top of the broadcast, at the top of the day here. That draft in these younger categories, especially when you go into Swift Stars, ages 9 to 12, our youngest group here of stars on the track. I mean, this is going to be all important to the draft, and you'll watch these young drivers as they go tuck the helmet down and actually headbutt the steering wheel on the straightaways, because they're going to be looking and they're going to be thinking, what can I do to get more pace? And obviously the more aerodynamic you are, the better that is. And yes, aerodynamics matter even in karting, which is something that it took me a minute to kind of get to grips to when I started really getting into karting. Understanding that, you need to tuck your head in. In older classes, you'll see people do what's been coined the lawn chair, where they actually lean down and back to try to get that sort of slick surface of aerodynamics. And that draft plays such an important part here for all of these drivers to go through. And again, in the younger categories, you set it up and these younger drivers, what they probably did last night was they probably took all of this GoPro footage, and you see all the GoPros through, and they went through and they just watched that GoPro footage. They took the time and they said, what can I learn from it? And a lot of it, I guarantee you, is how close can I draft? Where can I draft? What can I do? As we see more dust kicking up, drivers continuing to make mistakes throughout this circuit. And we've seen it every category. I'm not saying this is exclusive to this 9 to 12 Swift Stars group. Every category, every driver has had an off, has had a moment throughout this weekend. And it's just going to continue, I think, as they go. We continue to watch and really, enjoy what these Swift Stars are putting on track. As we see this group continue to close up, and they send it down into turn one yet again. They continue to run through, keep this battle moving, and it's not even a battle, it's qualifying, right? But it's a battle for them, let's be honest.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's really just about, if you're not thinking that the lap you're on is going to end up being the money lap, that you're trying to make a pass or make multiple passes or set yourself up for the next one. That's what you're seeing right here. All three drivers at the front of this pack are playing leapfrog. Macha pulled out, tried to let him go. Manalio right behind, and Myers right behind, instantly pulled over and slowed down even more. And they said, no, Max, you're leading the way. And so Max just gave up, and now Maxwell goes back to the front of the 5-pack. Whereas this duo here, Cameron Johnson and Paxton Romero, I believe, are just kind of running on their own. They're in parallel. Here's another pass. This is Manalio in the white helmet going by. Gaddis falling back to fourth in line. And then again behind them here, Cameron Johnson on the black, orange, and green Franklin Motorsports Merlin. Paxton Romero in the blue and orange Team Bennett colors. One of the drivers in that front group looked like they dropped a tire, kicked up a ton of dust in the second to last turn. And as they hit the line, none of them are going to go faster. Let's see if anyone further back jumps up the board. I don't think we'll see anything yet. So we stay posted here. Even more dust clouds. That's from turn one blowing across onto the circuit here on that sector. And there you can see, look at all the dust and debris off the 144. That driver may have been the one that went off all the way back at turn number one. That's going to be one of the Velocity Sodis, Miklos Hadju Nemeth III. Macha back again, trying to realign himself. 50 seconds to go. Another cool tidbit about the Stars Championship Series is the use of the Track Systems North America track safety light system. Not only do you see a lot of those black little pylons on the inside of every corner that are the safety lights that allow the drivers to see the flag colors to denote a yellow zone or if the race goes red at all, but they also have the timing and scoring, or at least the duration of the session on a board down the front straightaway right by the head flagman. Look at the mess of rocks there it is going into the final turn. But right here they can see how much time is left. They know this is now going to be the money lap. 15 seconds to go. The first pack will get another chance. Drivers further back will not, and they will have to sit with just 5 laps completed. All of the rocks right here from drivers going off in that second to last turn. I mean, this is a maze, and it is barely clean enough on the Rhino liner to get one cart by, but even still a good bit of debris. And you hit one of those rocks there, it gets into the tire or any of the dust, and then you've got multiple corners that are going to be thrown off. If nothing else, just that one final turn that sets up a run down a hefty straightaway that could really lose you 2 or 3 tenths with a single wobble of the wheel. Holden Myers, back of the pack here, 5th in line. Last time around, fastest, still holding, as there's another look. That's coming into the last turn. That was the 144 of Hadju Nemeth, dropping the left rear off and bringing all those rocks onto the track. They'll still hit them again when they get back to that final circuit. Right here, Dominic Gaddis, the snowplow to lead them through. Let's see if anyone can hang on to go better to the line. Swift Stars qualifying.
Coming across the line here, you can see the 174, Macha actually bouncing the cart. And that's something that I don't typically feel like we see in the younger categories, is the cart bounce, trying to just get that little bit of extra oomph going. Coming across the line, Myers will hold on in the front here by almost a tenth of a second over Jaden Francisco. Manalio, there we go. Words are hard on a Saturday morning. Will find his way into third. And the 144 of Hadju Nemeth also was in off on the last lap, back in the back. It'll be a long day for Hadju Nemeth, but there will be plenty of time to find. Manalio in third, Macha in fourth, and Dominic Gaddis in P5.
So there you have it. Swift Stars qualifying in the books. KA Stars getting ready to roll. We'll take a quick step aside. We'll be back with our final qualifying session. Then it'll be time to go racing. From Salem, Ohio, you're watching Kart Chasers coverage of the Stars Championship Series Earthquake. We'll be back.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200?
I'm tired of all this Brandon business, okay? Brandon this, Brandon that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR over $200? We know, okay? Take a walk with me. At Shop AKR, they have everything you need to start racing at a very cheap and affordable price. They have MXC rims, they got chains, electrical stands, tilt seats, they got MXCs. And if you didn't know, on top of that, any purchase in the continental US over $200, that's free shipping.
Hey, aren't you supposed to be in the AKR Anonymous meeting over there?
Dude, I'm doing a commercial.
Dude, we have no time. It's about to start.
Stop. We all love Shop AKR. Me? More than others. What do I get at Shop AKR?
MXC rims.
Paulie Massimino wins in KA. Paulie Massimino is a winner in OKN Stars.
Take your driving to the next level with one-on-one coaching from 2024 OKN Stars champion Paulie Massimino. Kart rental options are available if you'd like to keep yours at home, and drivers in all classes are welcome, from Briggs 206 to Mini to KA100 and X30. With in-depth data analysis, onboard video footage review, and lead-follow on-track sessions, each private coaching session will see you end as a more complete driver than when you started. Book your coaching session now.
Kyle, what are you doing?
It's got my new Greyhound seat.
You don't even have a cart.
Doesn't matter. I have a Greyhound.
Who the f is Kyle Cuthbertson? Doesn't even have a go-kart.
Doesn't matter.
Cuthbertson through on Turney, Turney in the dirt.
Back on track for our final qualifying session. KA Stars now going green here with another full grid. We've got 3 more sessions to go after this, while the coverage remains free before we'll be exclusive to KC Premium members for $9.99 a month with the Mazda Motorsports Pro Show divisions OKN-J, OKN Stars, and Pro Stars all on tap for their first laps around the circuit here this morning to warm up the tires. They qualified yesterday afternoon. And this will be the last session to set our grids for racing later today, qualifying for KA Stars. One of the first karts out is one of the DPC Motorsports X-Breeds of Andrew Hamill. Junaid Din there in the Orsilon colors. Jared Clark around the outside of turn number 5 for the 916. The Queen City Gambit winner now moves to second overall on the track. Colin Lloyd there behind him on the Velocity Racing Sodi in the 961 this week, and you've seen him the 993. Enzo Vidmontien here making a move. The SLA Kart Racing Kart Republic, black and white colors there with Nick Gabriel in tow. A couple of fast cars in the first grouping out on the circuit. What a day yesterday for Andrew Hamill, though. The small Georgia-based DPC Motorsports camp. Only, I believe, maybe 2, if not 3 entries here this weekend. Top of the boards, and, or running up front at least in happy hour, and already running away a little bit on the outlap from 2 drivers that have more than proven themselves. 2 former KA senior race winners. Colin Lloyd, multi-time race winner on the national tour. First full season with Velocity Racing Sodi, still kind of getting his, comfort levels with the go-kart together, but starting to really shine. And Jared Clark, who again won at round 1, is one of them. Must have gone off. It was Hamill, actually.
The black and orange machine dropping a tire out of turn number 2 and 3. And so Andrew Hamill falls back now.
Hamill with a major moment there, but trying to hold on to it and come through. And I don't know if we need to remind KA Stars that this is a qualifying session for them. We're not into heats or races yet, but you can see passes already aplenty. If you feel like you're the faster kart, it's very beneficial to make sure you're in that position to show that. If you feel like you're being held up by the kart ahead, it is beneficial here in qualifying to go ahead and go for that pass. And also, this kind of is the first run of the day to get the idea of really where you're at. Now, KA Stars did have a warm-up at 8:50 this morning. It's now about 10:04 a.m. here at the track. So, I mean, they've had some time since they've been on track. This gives them time to get going, get a little bit acclimated as laps continue to come across the line here, come through. And Hodgson still on the top there with Surgener in the second place, surging the way forward. Mason there in the 942 kart.
Oliver Hodgson really said he was enjoying a new layout, enjoying a new racetrack here to learn and develop on, and develop the talent that he has fostered. The former IME International Final champion from the United Kingdom, a highly decorated driver and one of the elder statesmen in the KA Stars field. He's eligible to run KA Masters, but a driver of his caliber who loves competition and is absolutely as good as he's ever been, is happy to stay in the headline of the 100cc classes, or the headliner of the undercard this weekend for KA Stars. Oliver Hodgson and Macron Motorsports, a two-car operation with himself and one of his latest proteges, Chase Buscalia, who was fast at both of the opening rounds, especially back at Newcastle for King of the Castle round number 2 just last month. Let's see what this lap looks like for the 927. He's trailing that main group. Be another big lap for him, maybe next lap. This was kind of a cool-down lap for him, a 65-68. I think he was trying to reposition himself, seeing the passing and drivers going off in front. But a 64-81 back on lap 2 is still holding, although it's closing. Andrew Hamill resetting himself, has started to get going again with a 64-87 last time by. Alan Isambard joining the top 5, going to 3rd. Mason Surgener, this is, oh man, that was a hairy moment for the 957, right in front of our provisional pole sitter. Who was that? That was Chase Adams, way out of shape.
Yeah, I don't think Adams meant to be there, and you saw kind of the hand toss up there, sort of a sorry wave, to be honest, is what that was. Just, hey, I'm sorry that happened. Go on about your business there. And that is one of the things that you'll really see here in KA Stars, is they're very respectful of each other. And that's a general thing you see with karting, is all of the drivers are very polite to each other in a way, but they're all racing on track, right? We're all racing for pole. We're all racing for the win, and we're all racing through. But everyone knows that, you know, karting is one of those things that you come in, you do what you can, you go through as more laps come across the line. The 921 of Brown caught my eye there, jumping up into P7. So times are continuing to come down. A minute and a half left to go in this qualifying session. The question for me is who can take on that 927 kart and really come through in the time. Andrew Hamill looks good. The 953 of Isambard looks good as well. And Surgener looks good as well in the 942. But it's just, I think we've hit that point where we're on 5 laps in. Do you have anything left in the tires? Do you have anything left in the kart? Or are you going to be risking your equipment for later on if you try to push now?
Great point. Again, are you going to be hindered at all for the latter bit? Even just the latter bit of the session, right? By going with 50 seconds to go, they're going to get another lap on it. So Oliver Hodgson, last time around, even with the traffic of Chase Adams, he ended up with a 64-92. Wasn't happy enough with that. But he's happy with his 64-81 from earlier. He's going to live with it. He's pulled to the scale line, so he'll sit on the sides in the hot seat right now. Hamill's still second. Isambard 3rd. He was able to go a little better that time around. Still hasn't gone any faster than Hamill or Hodgson. As way off goes Will Steele into the final turn. He'll bring a ton of dust onto the front straightaway as the 975 machine rejoins. 10 seconds to go. Final lap for everyone, including this main pack that currently holds our second place runner right now in the black and orange colors, Andrew Hamill. Isambard is not in this pack, but Hudson Brown is on the 921 gold cart. Hamill, I think, may be bailing on this lap here. You saw him put his hand in the air. He's behind Lucas Zabo, who is outside the top 10 currently. Junaid Din in this pack. He is down in 25th right now on the Orsilon Tony kart.
and chasing at the back of it. Looks like maybe the 951, but I'll check that number when they hit the loop here. Let's see as they round that final turn. Jared Clark leads them all. It's actually Gabriel there. Big off for Henry Taylor. Checkers in the air. Can anyone go faster on lap 6? No. Nothing out of that pack. Taylor obviously won't get a good lap in. He'll end up 12th off his previous best. Buscaglia across the line, no better. 8th for the 926, and the final few will cross with nobody able to knock Oliver Hodgson off the top of the pylon. The Snaky Brit has stolen another pole, and the Macron Motorsports camp will be happy with that performance for both drivers. 8th for Buscaglia, and Alex is already down in the scales with Oliver.
Thank you, Xander. Oliver, P1 there. Do you feel like you finally come to grips with the racetrack, or are you guys still searching for more here as the day goes on?
Always searching for more. I think not in the equipment, but just genuinely in my driving, and it's what I enjoy doing. Is trying to get better all the time. So I think there's still more potential in me. Kart was performing well. Really happy to be having a good run there. I kind of got to the point where I thought with the traffic in front that it was sensible to call it there, and if we're near the top of the board with that, I'm very happy that we got that with the half a session.
Leading the field to the green here for the heat races today. From what you learned yesterday, do you feel like this is the racetrack that you're going to be able to kind of pull away like you did at Newcastle, or do you think the field's going to be close enough to you?
I always expect it to be close. I mean, it's what we come here to do. So we'll see. I think there's a little bit of difference in speed between the front and then the ones just after. So I kind of expect the front guys to be together, at least, and at least to begin with, and then I expect the front guys to kind of stretch the midfield out.
Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you.
Another good point then by Oliver that, the pack will spread if the fastest karts are in front, and combine that with the fact that many drivers have echoed that it will be a bit tricky to pass. And while it's high speed and the draft can keep them together, if they don't go side by side, if they don't hinder each other's lines, well, they may end up still pulling the pack away. If they can stay single file for those first few laps, you could see a pretty strung out 40 driver KA Stars Heat 1 and beyond. On track now, OKN-J drivers taking their way around the circuit for the first time today. 16 corners here at Quaker City Motorsports Park. Let's take a look at your kart class official circuit preview. Down the run to turn number 1 leads into a triple apex 2-3-4 section. A very fast turn number 6. It's been noted as one of the potential passing zones. Definitely going to be one down to the front stretch to turn number 1, but turn 6 might be one as well. Turn 7's nearly full throttle and everything minus the KZ classes, and then it leads into turn number 8, which being at the end of a straightaway, you would think might be enough to make a move, but that little kink going in kind of narrows the line up. And then you're really single file and full speed through 9 and 10 and under heavy G-load, nearly 3 Gs for many classes and drivers through turns 11 and 12. A quick chicane at 13 and 14 for the rhythm into 15. And that final turn, we've seen plenty of drivers go off leading in, coming off of 15, bringing all kinds of debris in the brake zone and corner entry to 16. But it's such a critical corner because that's such a long straightaway run down the start-finish line run. To get back to turn number 1. Just shy of a mile, 16 corners here at Quaker City.
This track is so interesting because there's so many things about it that I look at the track map and I go, okay, so this is how this track should work. This is how things should run. But then I've watched these karts defy all the odds of what I expect. Turn 16 being extremely tricky, I would not have said looking at the map. I would have said, all right, you're coming off of the right-hander of 15, and it's an elbow or a 180 through 16 to run down to the elbows of 1, 2, 3. Really wouldn't have expected that to be such a tricky situation where we've seen many karts go off. And here's going to be the situation that I am seeing. We hear from KA Stars, Hodgson up front saying, expect the field to spread. I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to go counter to that and say, I don't expect the field to spread. Because here's the thing, turn 1 is almost as tricky as turn 16, it feels like. And if you end up with guys side by side as they go through, that's going to produce a whole nother situation where you go side by side, you see the rocks on the track, you see there's one line, you put 2 karts into one line, it doesn't work like that. And I don't know about you, 2 karts into one line, usually someone's going to have to take the bait, and that's just not going to work out as well for them as I think they want it to. So you'll end up with you know, possibly an incident as we see the 191 off of the track there.
That's Jude Thurmalaswamy in the 191. He was 12th at the time of going off, and as we've touched on in the past, the OKN-Js, OKN Stars, and the KZ classes, the Pro Stars and the KZ Masters and Super Masters, all direct drive bump starts. So with them, they cannot refire the engines standing still, and they are not allowed for safety to refire them if they stall. But being direct drive, again, that gear is straight to a front sprocket on the engine and a rear sprocket. They also have to be mindful, again, of locking the tires up with the rear brake system because that, of course, would cut the motor off. So that'll be a big point as well in some of the major brake zones to try and not do that too harshly because that is what is notorious for blowing the reeds out of the reed cage and damaging the motor, or at least breaking the reeds and damaging the session in the OKN-J and OKN Stars classes. It's a major talking point, how sensitive these motors are. For the casual viewers, again, watching along at home, this is a multi-manufacturer formula class, no different than the KZ classes. There are, I believe, 8 engine manufacturers that have thrown their hats in the ring, from the likes of TM to Vortex to Modena and beyond, that all build to the specs set by the CIK-FIA over in Europe. The OKN-J and OKN Stars, the N stands for National. It's a slightly detuned version of the international class for OK and OKJ that's only run at the European and World Championship races abroad. It's a 1,000 RPM lower rev limiter, so they top out at 15,000 RPMs, which might sound like a big number, but realistically, they're going to bounce the chip quite a bit on a track like this, and maybe almost kiss it in the run even down to turn number 1. But there's a lot of mid-range power. With the direct drive, you don't have a lot of giddy up and go with a single gear class like this right out of the corner or right off the line. But once you get to about that 8,000, 9,000 RPM range, 10,000 especially, up to 15, it's a huge boost of nearly 40 horsepower by the top, or 40 horsepower at the peak. And you'll feel it. And they'll be right in that power band for a lot of these high-speed corners as we're seeing all of them rip through the double lefts, turn 6 and 7, and on the run down to turn 8. That was Edward Kennedy, Antonino, and one more behind, I believe, may have been Sebastian Rist. No, that was Isaac Malka. Here's Rist in the 122. Fortis competition. Carlos Sainz entry. He currently is fastest, 62.309.
Interesting to see a fast time from Rist there with 30 seconds left to go in warm-up coming through. That was his 5th lap going out. Actually, fastest is John Antonio in the 193. Jumps him there by a little over 1/10 of a second at the moment, and will continue to run through as we see these karts continue their way around and go through. It's so tricky to balance out that braking and accelerating, keeping the rev ranges up. It is truly a learned art, and it's something that these drivers continue to improve on as we go through, and it's going to be such a balancing act for them as they go and get this warm-up session done and get set up. They're going to be ready to race here in just a little while. They will actually not race until after lunch. So they do this warm-up here at 10:15 in the morning. They don't take the track till 1 p.m. How much is the track going to change between now and then would be my concern for them, and the answer is probably quite a bit, all things considered. It seems like track evolution is something we've really watched through the weekend.
Checkers in the air for OKN-J. John Antonino, MPG Motorsports. Good lap around 62.116 for him. And on a side note, 2 lap times were deleted for Max Weiland, a perennial frontrunner here in this class, and I believe the number 3 plate here this year from last year's point standings. Only ends up with 2 officially scored laps, and I'm not sure what may be the cause for those laps getting deleted. I'll take a look at that because it's not the only instance that we have seen it where we've had a couple lap times removed from the pile, and it threw us off even for Blake Nash yesterday in OKN Stars Qualifying. We originally thought it may have been Diego Ramos. Ultimately, his lap times were good, and that put the Nash Motorsports driver on pole for both motos today. So all drivers on screen here now. The next level up from OKN-J, OKN Stars, ages 15 and over. Last year's KA Stars champ James Overbeck, two-time KA Stars champ, moving up to the OKN Stars class, and he got his first win and only his second start on the package at round 2 last month at Newcastle. He now enters this weekend with a chance to really solidify himself as as the first driver to be both a KA Stars and OKN Stars champion, with the class structure sending him up. And to do it in his rookie season, it'd be equally impressive as a win for this young man. Frankie Iadavea, first weekend on the package. He ran Pro Stars at the first 2 rounds of the season. He's now into the single-speed entry for the Maranello Carblos Racing Engines crew. And he'll be one of the first karts, it looks like, lined up on the grid to go out. Now, you see the driver's hand right behind the spark plug boot, and that is to pull up on the decompression valve. And that will allow the axle to spin a little bit freer, and then make it easier for the mechanic or dad or helper behind to give them that bump start. And then he'll just give a little bit of throttle and has to keep the speed up so that the engine doesn't stall afterwards, because once he gets out the grid, if it stalls, that's the end of the session. A great look down here from our mobile cameraman, Hunter Bolton, doing a great job bringing you all these close-up shots here this morning. And we'll have plenty more of it as the day rolls on. You can see the entire OKN Stars field. It's a lot of the same cast we had at round 1 and round number 2. Only a couple of new drivers joining. And for this division, OKN Stars Diego Ramos, he needs a good weekend this week. He was the first to cross the line at round 1 at the Queen City Gambit. But a penalty after contact earlier in that race with Chase Gassie at lead dropped him down. He had a so-so weekend in Indiana, but he has been captain consistency for the regular season, and multiple times over the last couple of years, he's entered the season finale of a major series with a shot at the title, and he has yet to come out with it. He would love to deliver for PSL Karting here this year. On the side note, though, he got away clean. These two did not. Austin Olds, Chase Gassie at lead, trying to refire. The motors did not come to life on the first time around, and they have to be careful as well not to flood the carburetor. It looks like they're both inching their way along. I think Gassie at lead might have just stalled it again. Olds is crawling on the entry to the racetrack, and they're going to try and probably clear out the carb for a minute here for Gassie at lead, I would think, if they have to go a third time, because at a certain point that bowl on the carburetor will fill up with fuel, and it'll just be too much, and the engine won't be able to get just the right amount to fire up and get away.
Talk about the next level of pressure here. I mean, you're trying to get going, you're trying to get moving, and then you end up Gassie at lead, and it takes 3 attempts to start the engine. But that's the thing with a bump start motor, is sometimes it just doesn't go right off the bat for a number of reasons. So you end up in a situation where you really get the pressure here, as we have somebody already off into the wall here early on, and that is a session over, not even a first lap complete. Let's see who that is.
Alex Sharma, the Vice Racing Kart Republic group based out of West Palm Beach, Florida. And he has pounded the red and white Scribner barriers on the outside of turn number 3 and 4. And so, yeah, his session over before it began. Chase Gassie at lead will be a lap behind, but he'll still get out on track at full speed in this session. So good news for him at least. Frankie Iadavea first around, first lap in. It'll get bested by Blake Nash, yesterday's top qualifier. 62-65 for him. Mason Kuhn to second. Diego Ramos to third on the outlap. Overbeck fifth. Aiden Lorenko's in this group. He's one of 2 Fox & Son Karting orange and blue and white LN karts there. In the front of the 2 is Aiden Fox in the 13. Let's go down to pit lane for one of the other Maranellos, but not in Pro OKN Stars. It's in Pro Stars. Josh Conker is standing by with Alex.
Thanks, Xander. Josh, I guess you win a national race. You think you don't have to practice anymore. What's going on there?
Unfortunately, I got stuck at work yesterday, so just glad to be here, glad to be back in the seat. We're just kind of taking the weekend and using it as some testing for 2 weeks here, so excited to get after it. I've heard it's a good track, pretty physical, get me in shape for sure, and I'm excited to hopefully not drive off the track here.
You said you've heard it's a physical track. Have you had a chance to kind of watch anything throughout the day yesterday, or you're working too much?
I tried to catch a little bit of the stream. I know Henry Wheeler had a video posted on Stars on their page, and then you guys also posted Gassie at Lee's. So just some clips that I was able to get from that and kind of watch the lap. So, we'll see how we go here.
From the last time we saw you to now, how much testing, if any, have you gotten a chance to kind of do behind the wheel?
I did a day at Motorsports and a Briggs for fun. That was it.
You feel good for this weekend?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm excited. It's always nice to take and drive. So excited to be back with the team, with the boys, and just ready to get after it.
Well, Josh Conker's looking for that last to first challenge. Back to you guys.
One driver off in the wall. That looked to be Remy Andriatos in the TKG Birol Art. So we've lost another one in OKN Stars. And this is down at turn number 7, leading on to the back straight. Awkward place to kind of go off here as now Frankie Ayadavea goes to the top of the board. Impressive warm-up for him. Austin Olds second, Henry Wheeler third, Diego Ramos in fourth.
Looking through, looking up and down as we see different drivers in different situations. Some are really getting it. Seem like they're really getting the track under their belt. Some seem like they're still having moments to go through. Looking up and down.
Oh, another one.
Oh, the
Kyler Cheatham on the JHDD. Kart Republic is off. He's halfway down the straight. I don't know if he would have. And Mingnan Zhu is off as well. Multiple drivers in OKN Stars going out here in the warm-up session. That's out at turn 11, way at the far end of the property for Mingnan Zhu and the PSL Birol Art.
That is a very interesting place to go off to in turn 11. So I have to wonder if somebody, again, as we've kind of seen a lot in turn 16, if this has happened at turn 11, somebody's ran it a little wide, kicked up some rocks or something, dust, and it kind of just washed through. You come in behind trying to take your line's dirty and you don't know it, you wash out. It's such a weird situation to see here as we get a replay up, and I think this might answer what happened. And that was just, it was a wide wash there. The tires didn't have the grip that you were asking for.
Yeah, it's an odd moment as well to kind of go off the way that they did, both Cheatham and Andriatos. You can see Andriatos was already spinning at the top of the screen on corner entry, and Cheatham was kind of going around already, looked like locked up, and he had dropped the right rear off right here at exit, but I think he was going for a ride no matter what. But that corner, I mean, no exit curbing, no room for error. They're right on the limit. You can already see some of the grass has been deleted, if you will, at the exit of 7 from the amount of drivers dropping a tire and eating the grass up. And now it's just a dirt patch with rocks in it, just like we've seen at other parts on the circuit. Chase Gassiet-Lee in the 31 now to the top, 61.51, 1/1000th better than his former teammate in Blake Nash. He spent the first 2 weekends of the season with the Nash crew. He's run with them for most of his career. But this weekend's an independent effort for the Coastal Link printing driver, and he's right now fastest. Nash second. This is Finn Bailiff's pack with Satvik Sarathi and Diego Ramos in tow. All 3 of them in the final turn kind of tripped up. That'll hurt their laps at the line, and it will be a good lap for Gassiet-Lee again. 61.24 for Chase. CGL to the top by a lot, nearly 2/10.
2/10 is such a massive gap here with how condensed and how impressive this field is here. That 2/10 gap at the top, I mean, that isn't just a fluke lap for Chase Gassiet-Lee. That is Chase Gassiet-Lee turning the hammer up and saying, you know what, I got to go here. I got to go, and I'm going to go. I'm going to get this lap in, and that's a great lap. We have to see if Blake Nash can respond to that. Blake Nash, who ran OKN in California in 2023, raced in Europe in 2024 as we go through.
Final laps underway as, Mingnan Zhu, he went up and over. This is the aftermath. And another one around as well on screen. That's the 17. That is going to be Maverick McKenna, the other Jay Howard entry. Around in, was that the final corner? It was right at the back sector. Gassiet-Lee to the line. That time by no better. Was in traffic. Nash improved. Closed the gap a bit. Ayadavea third. Ramos fourth. Massimino fifth. McKenna around. Love to see if we could have one more look at Mingnan Zhu's moment, but it may be our first grip flip on the weekend, a self all-alone moment for the number 67 Birol Art, getting up on 2 tires in the highest G-load part of the circuit, as now they will refire McKenna because the session is over, and try to get him back going in the corner, and as well try to not give too much throttle, but just enough to get the engine to refire, and I don't think it will at this point. I think it may be flooded. Looks like they're going to keep on trying. But he's trying to time again when to pull on the decompression valve. And while the official's given all the effort in the world, I don't know. Looks like he's rolling barely. Yes. Out and away. That'll save us a little time on the kart recovery.
just barely got that cart away here as we look down onto the grid with our next setup of Pro Stars, who are going to be our final warm-up here on the session, getting ready to go as we watch through and around. The cart recovery comes underway. I think it's interesting that we've already seen a grip flip here going through as we look at the warm-up standings. Gassi at lead, warming up fastest, of course, with Blake Nash less than a tenth back. Adavea is 3/10 back off of that. Diego Ramos and Pauly Massimino, your top 5.
Henry Wheeler was close. He was the fastest through most of the day yesterday. The 18 Mike Doty Racing Machine, half a second off in warm-up, but you never know who may have gone fresh rubber versus used rubber after qualifying. It's a driver's choice, really, of what tires you use in the practice runs. Austin Olds, 7th, stayed in the top 10 yesterday. Mason Kuhn had a great qualifying effort yesterday in the top 10, and he ends in the top 10 here in the warm-up as well. P8 for him, Overbeck 9th, Aiden Fox in 10th. And while there's only 19 at OKN Stars, still a solid grid, there's even more in Pro Stars. I believe 26. And now with Josh Conker, should be 27 on the entry list for the main division, the final act and the headliner of the Mazda Motorsports Pro Show, Pro Stars, 27 indeed, getting ready to roll with some of the nation's best, some of the world's best on the grid for round number 3. European titles, world titles, American titles, you name it, they've got it on the grid amongst that field. And the Canadian Josh Conker is already lined up at the front. He's ready to maximize this session, get every second out of it. Hopefully get as many laps as possible to learn. And then starting from tail end of the field to later today for both motos, having missed out on qualifying. He'll be one to watch. How quick can he get going? And the same for Adrian Renaudin. We heard how frustrated he was yesterday. A P6 effort on what he felt like was a really good lap in the works on the final lap when he caught traffic. But he starts back on row number 3 and the row ahead of him. Row 2 for Matheus Morgado. He pulled it in Newcastle. He was great there. He was our winner at round 1. He has the best odds of anyone to potentially clinch the championship this weekend with your best 3 of the 4 rounds counting. Still having that 4th round as a banker to go. But to do that, he'll have to best the rest, including the number 1 plate of A.J. Myers and the likes of his teammates here, who will start right up front with him. What an effort yesterday for C.J. Bowman. 4th in Pro Stars qualifying. My goodness, fantastic stuff out of the Magic Kart crew, and it's a lock out of that front row because it'll be AJ on the inside and Wild Thing himself, Andrew Boydishow. What an effort for the entire Ohio and Pennsylvania-based operation at their new home circuit to start 1 and 2. And Andrew didn't mince words at all in his post-qualifying interview. He said, yeah, no, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to beat AJ, I'm going to manage the race, and yeah, we're going to win and we're going to have a good time. He is back at the town and area he grew up in, just 30 minutes down the road in Youngstown, Ohio. He's moved to Raleigh, North Carolina with him and his girlfriend. Works in the HVAC business during the week. He's still on every available race weekend that he can. Tries to join in on the family operation with his older brother Robbie and his father Chaba, running the Checkered Trucking Company as well as Magic Kart USA and Checkered Motorsports. He's been eyeing up the opportunity to get back behind the wheel of a pro shifter kart for quite some time, and it had been a couple of year hiatus, a little bit of testing, a club race or 2, and I believe maybe 1 or 2 other one-off attempts. But this weekend's really the beginning of the return of the 278, and he'll be exciting to follow along with throughout this weekend. So will Gavin Bailiff. Got the first win of his Pro Stars and Pro Shifter career at the SCUSA Pro Tour in March this year in spectacular fashion. He has quickly become a household name now in the headline category, and the alliance with TKG, Trinity Karting Group, as the official U.S. Beryl Art race team, and PSL Karting, a North American factory-backed effort that houses the likes of Matheus Morgado, Jay Irwin, and a number of entries in the class, has obviously started to pay a lot of dividends. Gavin mentioned one of the biggest benefits for him this year compared to a year ago. Last year, TKG was the Kart Republic North American team. He was the only Kart Republic shifter driver consistently, and they were on their own engine program as well. He actually is one of the few on the grid that builds his own motors, and while they still are doing that, he is getting to learn quite a bit from one of the powerhouses in North American karting and PSL karting and Dominic Lebrec, who helps build the TM manufactured KZ motors for them. That's been a huge asset, along with, of course, all the chassis setup and data they're able to do. They're able to try multiple different things across the teammates and alliance, and then learn from each other, bounce ideas off each other. You don't get that when you're on your own machinery, and you're kind of isolated. And really, on a limited session count, on a new track, that's gonna, I have to imagine that's a big benefit, Bradley.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You can run, yourself out, and you can just figure out what works, what doesn't, right? Or let's take a team concept and let's throw 4 drivers out there. 4 is greater than 1. You get 4 times the data, 4 times the input, 4 times the output to dial in quicker. And setup is so important. Again, I can't stress that enough. That setup, tires, everything is so important in karting. And, if you're a fan of any of the major, motorsports, IMSA, Formula One, WEC, NASCAR, you hear them talk about setup a lot, right? And they talk about loose car, fast car, tight entry, exit, etc., blah, 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 right? And they talk about changing tire pressures, changing all of this and that. But the gaps for them are seconds, sometimes a lap. You look at karting, I mean, we have winners that are decided by milliseconds here in karting. So that is such an important thing, and if you can dial that setup, find those tenths, those hundredths, those thousandths of a second that you need to find one way to the other, that's so important. And the more data you can get, the faster you can do that on these limited weekends, the easier it is, because setup is going to be something that dials in, and when you dial it in right, it just works. It's so hard to really explain the difference between running a kart that is a good setup and running a kart that is the perfect setup. It is such a big difference.
Right. I mean, Adrian Reneden, if he would have just gone 1/10 faster yesterday, he would have moved up an entire row from 6th to 4th overall. And that outside lane is probably going to be preferred for at least Moto 1, if not further on, because they'll be on the cleaner side of the racetrack for the launch. Whereas the inside lane for AJ Myers, for Morgado, and for Justin White, they'll be on the dirtier part. But Vincenzo Saraceno, yesterday, he starts behind all of them. P8 after qualifying. He mentioned that there was just a lot of himself, a lot of self-induced moments and errors that had him having to live with his first lap at speed, and that's put him 8th overall. Still respectable, and still within a half second of AJ, and only 2/10 of 4th, or a 10th and a half of 4th, a 60.999. So keep an eye on him to go forward today as Ian Quinn goes wide, and then down to the inside coming out of the last turn, pushing the limits. He starts right behind Vincenzo on row number 5 on the inside in 9th, and it was a full-on spin for the 286. We'll see if we can take a look at what happened to him as the pylon changes now. Couple of red machines to the top. Jay Irwin, Mateus Morgado now fastest overall. A rough Friday for the Kiwi kid. The New Zealander ended up in the wall twice over the course of the day. One time even in qualifying had to dig himself out of the weeds, and then he was able to at least log a lap that was good enough for 11th. 1/1000th off of fellow Barrel Art Gavin Bailiff, who will line up in the motos today in the 10th spot. Morgado, obviously, a better day. 3rd in qualifying, 2nd currently, as they trade that top spot back and forth. Morgado now to the top. How about Luke Powers, another Barrel Art machine? The Mark Steele Motorsports camp that has Ian Quinn in it. Powers now up into 3rd, or into, well, was 3rd, now 4th, now 5th, now 6th as more times come in. Here's Irwin finishing a lap off with 1:45 to go. See how low, again, the narrow entry is for the shifter drivers down at turn number 16. This lap won't be the greatest for Jay. It'll be a 60.77, 2/10 off his best. Nothing there. AJ Myers now joining the picture, P5 for the number 1. But another driver to note in the top 10, one we haven't talked about much yet. Talk about NASCAR, IMSA, IndyCar, the like. Brent Cruz, the Leading Edge Motorsports CRG driver, as Irwin heads out of turn number 7 on the limit there, dropping a tire. There's David Carmody on the 202. Brent in the black and orange CRG with Leading Edge Motorsports and Greg Bell. The call came just about a week and a half ago, said Brent and his stepfather Matt were like, hey, we want to go shifter racing. We've got a window in our busy calendar with ARCA Menard Series starts and NASCAR Truck Series starts as well. The Toyota Racing Development driver wanted to get back into the class that he exited the sport with, or most recently exited the national tour with. Very recently, he was one of the youngest drivers, 13 years old, had to get a waiver. It's kind of been the story of his entire career. He's been moving up karting ranks in any other motorsport class, begging to go about 2 years before you're technically allowed to, usually on the hope that by the second year around, when you're 1 year under, they start saying yes. And 13 years young, he put it in the top 10 in Vegas at the Super Nationals in Pro Shifter amongst the factory drivers, the best of the world. And well, for Brent, yesterday was not up to Brent Cruz standards. He was unhappy. He said, man, this was not fun to have a day like where they were, struggling for speed. He's better now, and he has pulled in early, 6/10 off of Ian Quinn, who's now gone fastest, but in 11th, at least an improvement. Yesterday for qualifying for Brent, only a 61.41. He improves now to a 60.94, so that's a half-second gain for himself. Trevor McAllister there is mechanic for this weekend, and Greg Bell in the LEM effort, but they still need to find more. A.J. Myers, pole in qualifying, still 5th right now. What a recovery as well for Ian Quinn from a spin now to being fastest as the checkers fly.
And that's exactly what you want to see for Ian Quinn going through. And, you know, we talk about the setup, the physical setup, right, of the car, or the kart, and getting tires set up, figuring out what you want to run in the kart. It's a mental setup, too, that you kind of have to come in. And I'll tell you right now, if I'm Ian Quinn or I'm Jay Irwin or I'm Morgado, those top three, I'm feeling really good today than I was yesterday, because that mental setup of being in the front is going to feel really good, as we have a quick note in from Alex.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I just want to say briefly here, Xander and I announced obviously the qualifying session yesterday. What a turnaround for the Burrell Art team. And I spoke to Ian Quinn. I said, listen, you know, you guys are quick throughout the practices. What happened in qualifying? You guys seem to have missed it as a team as a whole. And he said, yeah, listen, especially on Ian Quinn's side, they didn't stay ahead of the racetrack. It was really easy to kind of get complacent, think that you're fast enough. The problem was the track gripped up quite a bit towards the afternoon yesterday. It caught most of the team off guard. Looks like they're ahead of it today.
Indeed, they look a whole lot better, but we are still far from the heat of the day where they qualified yesterday, and they're going to be out in that same kind of time window today for the motos. Their first moto right after the lunch break, 1 p.m., 1:20, 1:40 for the 3 divisions, so 1:40 for Pro Stars, and then back at 4:10 for Moto number 2, right around the same time they qualified on Friday. So he'll have to hope that they stay ahead of it and prepare for the added grip that will come as the track heats up. But the wind is blowing massively here around Quaker City Motorsports Park. A huge dust cloud at the top of the screen, but there is a little break in the action. We'll see what that does to the track when they return with on-track activity. For the moment, let's give you guys a little more insight. How about our good friend and official data analyst partner, Lucas Noguera, with a bit of insight of what the teams deal with and what they're able to work with when they go back to the tents.
So there's 3 basic pillars for data analysis. One is the data that we extract from the dash and look on the data station. The other thing is the feedback from the driver. And the last thing is the visual, like when we look at the driver on the track or we look at our onboard camera. Here at PSL Karting, we use a lot this SmartyCam 3 from AIM Sports. This camera is basically connected to the dash, and it gets all the data from the dash and it synchronizes the video already for us. So every time we use this camera, we take the SD card, put it on a computer, and then we are able to analyze the drivers side by side on the data. We all know that drivers, they learn faster when it's visually shown to them side by side what's the difference, right? So with the SmartyCam, every time we put on the data, we're able to see the drivers side by side on the track. So here, for example, you can see that Diego is taking a curb and our other driver is not. You see that one driver is oversteering and the other driver is pretty much straight coming out of the corner. By showing this to them, they're able to absorb faster. And you can even play the videos simultaneously so they can see how they're performing through the track.
A great bit of insight here from Lucas, and there's more where that came from. You can check him out on Instagram at LucasNoguera48. He is the official data and driver coach under PSL Karting and has been for quite some time. He's a busy guy, globetrotter himself, spends time working for a number of junior formula teams in Europe. Of course, he hails from Brazil, so he's down there at home working in the racing scene there as much as possible. And well, we get him stateside quite a bit as well for a number of events. He's a fantastic resource, and more, again, to come from him with all the intel that we can bring you of what these teams are going through right now when the track goes cold for a few moments. We've got 7 minutes on the clock Until we're back green and racing, we will see you on the switch over to members only. You'll be able to watch the replay of this later next week when it airs for free. But if you are a KC Premium member, well, you're about to get your value and plenty of it. 2 full rounds of heat races for all 9 divisions from Quaker City Motorsports Park coming up.